Hi, are we back? Are we back? Wicked cock. Diego died. Well, I can reopen Diego. That's all good. Are we good? Ow. Spicy on my finger. Rub my eye. Lovely. Hello, I have returned. Just like Rizus. I am back. From the damned. Gorlock arrived. Dude, so I have this app on my phone called Chatson, which lets me use... I broke Raven Streak again, let's fucking Joe. This is app called Chatson. You know, I'll display it for all of you mobile peasants. It's great. I'll display how it works. So whatever I use whenever the internet drops out, I'll use that. Mirror screen. Desktop, da-da-da-da-da. We'll get back into the SCP lore shortly. But right, so this is the app I use. It's called Chatson. So this is how it works. So you can have as many tabs as you want for different streamers at the bottom. And then whenever you want to like do something, like Gorlock, it has the emotes there. So I can just press Gorlock arrive, and it does the emote automatically. It's really nice. And if you just want to watch on mobile, like what you could do is go to, what the fuck is, go to Twitch, like do the thing which tabs it out. Go to Twitch. Lovely, I can hear myself again. Do the thing which tabs it out. And then do that, and boom. Lovely, I can hear myself again. Do the thing which tabs it out. And then do that, and boom. Lovely, I can hear myself. There we go. So now I can be like, Gorlock arrive. And the emote auto-completes while I still have the Twitch thingy up there. Like, it's pretty cool. So yeah, if you're a mobile peasant, I can't recommend Chatson anymore. It's very nice. It's very swag. Or just don't see the emotes. Yeah, just continue being a pleb. I like it. I think it's very cool. All right. Continue being based. That ain't based. All right.
Electrocution after putting her tongue into an electrical
Hey,
socket
yo.
in an attempt to plug herself into the wall, while her mother had swallowed so much bread that her stomach ruptured. According to the Foundation, the harmful effects started to manifest
Oh my
after
God, I'm
2
live.
months of continuously being in my presence, and I am functionally identical to any ordinary toaster that you might find in a store. So if you were thinking of buying a toaster, maybe it'd be wise to avoid it and just use the oven. But if you think I'm scary, just wait until you hear what's next.
Good thing it can't be my toaster. My toaster is way too slow.
SCP-072, the shadow under the bed. If you've ever woken up in the middle of the night with your feet sticking over the edge of your bed, you'll be rightfully terrified of this next SCP. SCP-072 is a shadowy, translucent creature resembling an elongated human hand with sharpened fingertips. It attaches itself like a parasite to the shadows under beds, and multiple instances of 072 can occur in any beds within a 10-meter vicinity of the original. During the day, SCP-072 is inert, but once a human has laid on the bed, this SCP waits until the person is asleep and entering REM sleep. If the person's foot is hanging over the side of the bed, the SCP will begin tapping on the foot until the person awakes. Once awake, they'll be frozen in a state of sleep paralysis, helpless to do anything as the entity uses the tips of its fingers to slowly and meticulously slice off small pieces of flesh from their feet. People who have experienced this say they were fully aware of the pain that SCP-072 was causing them, despite the fact that they were unable to move. When an instance of SCP-072 is found in the building, the bed the entity is attached to must be destroyed as soon as possible, as well as all other beds in the radius of the infection. Instances of SCP-072 can be easily destroyed and detained, but when the SCP is a fixed location like our next SCP, that can be a little trickier and a lot deadlier. Number 6. SCP-354, the Red Pool. According to Foundation records, this next SCP was discovered by survivors of a plane crash somewhere in northern Canada. The SCP has since been closed off and is being constantly monitored by a dedicated team to ensure nobody and nothing gets in or out of the containment area. However, this SCP isn't dangerous in and of itself. It's what comes out of it that you have to worry about. SCP-354 is a pond full of deep red liquid that resembles but is not fresh blood. It has no banks, rather the liquid congeals around the edges and gradually becomes more solid until it completely blends with the soil around it. If the pond has a bottom, it's yet to be found. Periodically, hostile monstrous entities will emerge from the pond. Past instances have included a giant bat, a bear-sized animal with spines like an echidna, and a humanoid reptilian creature. And if that isn't bad enough, many people at the research site built to contain the
Is that
pond
just
believe
Ash's
that it's
zoo?
sentient and has been growing in size in response to the Foundation's containment efforts. As
Is this just what
terrifying as
happens
the
to
idea of a
Ash's zoo?
sentient lake full of
She
monsters
runs the
might be,
zoo.
all you have
It
to do
ends
to
up like
avoid
this.
that one is stay out of northern Canada. This next SCP could be in the same town as you right now, and you wouldn't know until it was too late. Number 5. SCP-2086, the Living Bus. Have you ever found yourself on the wrong bus? It can be a pretty stressful situation. But imagine if the bus you got on was not only going the wrong way, but actually luring you into its lair in order to feed you to its children. That's exactly what happens to the victims of SCP-2086.
Be back. Hi,
This is a
Indra.
giant insect that
Be
in their
back.
adult form are indistinguishable from an ordinary city bus. SCP-2086 nests in junkyards, building nests from old scrap metal for their children, who are much smaller and haven't yet developed their bus-like features. While SCP-2086 can fly using huge wings that fold up to form the roof of the bus, their usual mode of locomotion is rolling along city streets, picking up human passengers. Once the adult SCP-2086 has collected enough victims, it'll release a noxious gas into its body cavity, knocking them out, at which point its young will drag the unconscious bodies out and consume them by sucking out their insides through hair-like filaments. If that's not gross enough for you, the drained husks of SCP-2086's
SCP so
victims
far?
are then fused to the inside of the creature's
999.
body and preserved with naturally occurring
From the video,
chemicals,
at least.
serving as decoy bus drivers.
We're early in the
But
video.
even this will still seem like a pleasant commute compared to the victims of our next horrifying monster. Number 4. SCP-049, the Plague Doctor. SCP-049 is a creature that resembles a medieval plague doctor, but instead of healing patients, this creature has been known to cause what could be described as a fate worse than death. SCP-049 is humanoid, and while it looks like someone in a plague doctor costume, tests have concluded that the cloak, hat, and mask are all part of the creature's body. It can communicate in multiple languages, and has stated its main goal is to rid the world of pestilence. Nobody is clear on what that means, but the SCP will get extremely agitated and aggressive if it encounters anyone it deems as infected with pestilence. Anyone this creature touches will die immediately, and autopsies have been inconclusive on the cause of death. If after killing a person SCP-049 decides that the pestilence hasn't been cured, it will conduct a surgery using a variety of strange tools. Once this surgery is complete, the patient will often rise from the dead as a mindless zombie. At this point, SCP-049 will deem them to be cured. Number 3.
The fuck?
SCP-087, the Staircase. Imagine the deepest, darkest basement you can think of. Now imagine it goes on forever. That's essentially the core of what SCP-087 is. This SCP is a staircase located somewhere on a university campus that is so dark and so deep that even a 75-watt bulb can only illuminate a couple of steps at a time. The staircase has no end, extending far below what both the layout of the building and the geography of the area around it should allow. When walking down the staircase, individuals will at some point
That seems
begin hearing
exciting.
a child's voice calling up to
How
them
many of
from
you guys
about
have played them?
200
Can you help me
meters
through them in
below.
case I get
No
lost?
matter how far they descend, however, the child's voice never gets any
I don't help me
closer.
too much
No
'cause
child has
scariness,
ever
but,
been
like,
seen. What
if I
has
get
been
lost,
seen,
like I
however, is
do,
a disembodied white
can you guys point me in the
face
right
with
direction?
No pupils, mouth, or nostrils that appears
It's free will.
behind people who try to descend the
Oh.
staircase. This face,
I've not played.
known
I
as
assume so. I was watching like Strut Gargoyle
SCP-087-1,
Indra.
is not the source of the child's voices, but in some cases, it's been recorded chasing SCP Foundation D-Class personnel up and down the staircase. We don't know exactly what happens when the face catches you, but we're pretty sure we don't want to know. Almost no one who runs into SCP-087-1 has returned back to the top of the staircase, and those that did were left in terrible states that might even be worse than death. Number 2, SCP-1076, the Only Child.
A mindless
Humans
zombie,
have a
right?
natural drive to care for their young, and that compassion is part of what has allowed us to
Okay.
thrive as a species. What makes
Interesting.
SCP-1076 so scary is that it seems to be a creature specifically evolved to exploit that very instinct. SCP-1076 is a race of creatures that resemble disheveled, homeless human children between the ages of 3 3 and 6,
Damn.
dressed in rags and covered in dirt. These creatures are mute and initially only appear to parents who are walking alone. Once the adult spots the child, they'll be overcome with the desire to protect it and will immediately take it home. Once SCP-1076 has been taken in, the adult, as well as any spouse or additional caregiver in the household, will become obsessed with them to the point that their own biological children experience severe neglect. Even if child services are called, they will ignore the children as well and focus all their attention on SCP-1076. As time goes on, the adults of the household will begin to neglect their own needs as well, meaning that an SCP-1076 encounter usually ends in the adult who took the creature in dying from exhaustion, dehydration, or starvation. In cases where the adults are separated from SCP-1076, they become extremely violent in an attempt to get back to their baby. To make things even more disturbing, if two SCP-1076s are ever placed in close proximity to each other, they will viciously attack each other on sight, biting, scratching, and beating each other until one or both SCPs are dead. And now, after surviving this carousel of horrors, we have the most terrifying of all. Number 1, SCP-096, the Shy Guy. We'd love to show you a real picture of what SCP-096 looks like, but if we did, we'd essentially be sentencing you to death. Even seeing a part of this SCP's face can spell doom. SCP-096 is a hairless humanoid entity about 7 feet in height, who behaves in an animalistic manner and shows no sign of intelligence or sapience. While usually it's docile in temperament and content to either sit or pace in its containment cell, if anyone is unlucky enough to see its face, it will go on the warpath. The SCP becomes agitated, flying into a blind rage until it's tracked down and killed whoever caught a glimpse of it. No amount of distance can save you either. The effect still works through photo and video, and no matter where you are, SCP-096 has an innate sense of your location. When it's tracking someone down, nothing can stop it. Its top speed hasn't been recorded, and it's able to run through tanks and can even continue moving when its torso has been pulverized with bullet holes. The only thing that can stop SCP-096's rampage once it starts is for it to kill anyone and everyone who's looked at its face. See, we told you it was horrifying. The agents looked around themselves nervously. Everything was so familiar, yet so foreign. The grass was dead, there wasn't a single sound to be heard, and not even a fly buzzing around in the air. All signs of life had disappeared. They dreaded to think about what they'd find when they examined this world further, but they knew they were here for answers. They continued on. As they walked around, it didn't take long to notice the corpses everywhere, lying on the dead yellow grass, sprawled across park benches. Yet none of the bodies were rotting. It was as if they'd just died a few minutes ago. Nervously, they walked into a nearby house. There, the corpses of an entire family were sat on chairs around their dinner table with plates in front of them like they died unexpectedly in the middle of a meal. It was the end of the world, but why and how? SCPs come in all shapes and sizes and mean different things for the world. Some want to kill, others want to be left in peace, others can coexist with the human race. But there are a few SCPs that could blow all the other SCPs out of the water by ending the world completely. Whether a Z-case scenario that changes nature and natural order, a C-case scenario that fundamentally alters reality as we know it, or an X-case scenario that destroys the universe and humanity, there are some
Nuke
serious
Massachusetts.
threats out there, and there's little anyone can do to stop them. Everyone fears the big and scary creatures from the SCP world, but some of the most threatening SCPs look innocent enough at first. SCP-498 is literally an alarm clock, but there's a catch. The alarm is capable of killing humans and perhaps even destroying the planet. Here's how it works. Every 11 minutes, the alarm clock goes off at a sound of 30 decibels. That's the sound level of a quiet rural area. It's so quiet, most people could probably sleep through it. But every 10 seconds, the sound increases by 4 decibels. That might not sound like much, but if the alarm is allowed to continue, there's no limit to the devastation it could have.
Oh, fuck.
A sound of 150 decibels can burst the eardrums of humans. A sound of 200 decibels is enough to kill a person. Meanwhile, a sound as loud as 1100 decibels could destroy the world, because it would create so much energy that it could create a black hole larger than the universe. With an increase of 4 decibels every 10 seconds, it would take only a few minutes to reach that point. The Foundation has attempted to destroy 498 to bring its danger to the world to an end, but so far the attempts haven't been successful. Instead, the only remaining solution is to ensure the snooze button is hit every 11 minutes until the end of time. It doesn't leave much room for error, and things haven't always gone to plan. The Foundation used to rely on a mechanical arm to automatically hit the snooze button, but one day the arm malfunctioned. Foundation personnel needed to step in and hit the button themselves until a new mechanical arm could be made. It sounds simple, but it wasn't. Unfortunately, there are some not-so-nice side effects of being around 498, such as increased alertness. One of the agents charged with guarding 498 became angry and aggressive and started arguing with the other agent in the room who was trying to reset the clock. As they argued, 498 still hadn't been reset and was beginning to make more noise. Whenever the sane agent tried to move and reset the device, the rogue agent would hit him to keep him away. After 2 minutes passed, the noise level became so high that the personnel were in pain, and the camera filming the whole thing began to vibrate from the acoustic stress. Still, the rogue Foundation member didn't want to let anyone near the alarm clock to put this all to an end. Eventually, another officer came in and managed to shoot the rogue agent and activate the emergency switch to alert the Foundation, but at this point his eardrums had ruptured and he was about to collapse. He failed to turn off the alarm. A while later, a containment team arrived to find the original good agent lying beside 498 with blood pouring out of his ears in a robotic state. He was lying barely conscious on the floor but repeatedly pressing the reset button. At some point, he'd managed to turn off 498 before it could do further damage and destroy the world. Both the officer and the agent survived the incident, but much stricter procedures were put into place for the future. After all, the world could have ended that day. So far, the SCP Foundation has successfully protected the universe by locking away 498 in a secure containment and implementing the strictest procedure. It's currently in a soundproof bunker that can cancel 95% of sound waves. But if for any reason the alarm clock can't be reset, or the Foundation staff went rogue again, it would destroy the universe. Most SCPs can be contained or guarded to minimize their impact, like 498, but a few are so large that even the Foundation can't do much to hold them back. SCP-3000 is a prime example. The Foundation first discovered 3000 after strange reports from fishermen around the Indian Ocean. One day, a submarine went down to investigate with personnel on board, and they couldn't believe what they found. Deep underwater, they found an enormous eel-like creature. It must have been hundreds of kilometers long, and its head alone was unbelievably large. But the scariest part of all was its eyes illuminating the darkness. There was also a strange gray liquid surrounding 3000. The closer the submarine got to 3000, the stranger they began to feel. The doctor on board started sweating, exhibiting anxious behaviors and whimpering. Nobody could make much sense out of what the man was saying, but he repeatedly talked about seeing darkness and nothingness. As the submarine reached the eel, the doctor became totally insane, smashing his head against the submarine window until the glass smashed. The mission had to quickly return back up to the surface, but the doctor died. Nobody was sure what had happened, but it was suspected 3000 has an impact on the cognition of humans. On a later mission, 3 divers went down to find out more about 3000. Tragically, 3000 swallowed 2 of the divers and emitted more of the gray liquid. Fortunately, one of the divers managed to send a sample of the strange liquid up to the surface before also dying. It turned out that the stuff was a powerful amnestic called Y909 that causes confusion, panic, and memory alteration. The SCP Foundation have used Y909 ever since to help with other missions, but it's not the kind of substance that you want to get into the wrong hands. Nobody likes the idea of a ginormous creature that makes them go insane and will possibly eat them, but it gets worse. Although the Foundation are still uncertain of many of the details regarding 3000, some theorize that the creature could actually be asleep, explaining why it never moves from its position in the Indian Ocean. But if 3000 were to wake up one day and harness its true potential, the world would really be in trouble. A 3,000-kilometer eel unleashing its wrath on communities around the globe and emitting Y909 everywhere. That would definitely be an end-of-the-world scenario. Others think 3000, also known as Anantashisha, could be a god, maybe Judgment Day.
That brings a new meaning to
Ready to hear something
the Amnesia games.
Enter in SCP-3805.
Every character just had the fucking eel coom.
Scenario that destroys the universe. 3805 is a huge embryonic entity lying deep below the Earth. In fact, what we used to believe were natural geological layers of the Earth seem to be 3805 itself. The outer crust of the Earth is actually the shell of 3805,
there is?
and the outer core below is a series of tunnels made of gelatin-like substances. The inner core is the embryo. It points to the conclusion that the Earth seems to be some kind of egg, bearing a creature beneath the surface. 3805 bears an embryo and seems to be in a state of gestation. It all begs a simple question: what'll happen when it fully develops? Nobody knows, but it's unlikely to be good news. Whatever 3805 is, the Foundation knows it's sturdy and not easily destroyed. All kinds of drilling.
So that's just like that Marvel movie. That's just Eternals.
However, in some places, interfering with
Marvel copied SCP SMH.
to make it spawn. In past expeditions or experiments, when personnel have drilled into 3805, it causes dark purple dust clouds filled with stars to form. As soon as the external stimulation that created the spawning stops, these dust clouds also stop, so they might be some kind of defensive mechanism. Currently, there are 2 spawns of 3805 above the ground that nobody has managed to disperse. They form their own passageways and offer entry into 3805. A few brave personnel have attempted to take expeditions to seal the tunnels to 3805, and others have accidentally stumbled across it in oil drilling or similar operations. They reported seeing dark liquid, tentacles, and the joints of a creature. While some escaped alive, others were less lucky. It seems that 3805 absorbed them. Unfortunately, it's difficult to collect much information about 3805 because of its location. The high temperatures that deep into the core of the Earth make it difficult to actually get anywhere near it. But ultimately, it seems like humanity is at the mercy of this insentient, sprawling being below the ground. It's just a waiting game until one day 3805 hatches or breaks out of the ground and takes the world for itself. Perhaps it will absorb everything and everyone on the surface. Worryingly, oil drilling operations appear to have awakened the beast already, and the spawn now on the surface of the Earth puts human life in grave danger. Also lying below the ground is SCP-2935, and this SCP is even crazier than 3805 because it's not just threatening to hatch out and destroy the world, it promises to alter time and reality too, causing a CK event. From the outside, 2935 looks just like a regular cave, but instead of leading to some damp, dark grotto, it contains the passageway to an alternate reality. 2935 leads to an exact replica of the world we know, except for one key difference. There's no life there. It's not just human life that's absent, but also animals, plants, and sentient entities like machines and computers. After noticing strange radio signals coming from the cave in Indiana, the SCP Foundation sent a drone down to the cave to investigate. They could never have predicted what they'd find. There were corpses lying all over the ground of animals and humans alike. It seemed that they died spontaneously and instantly because the corpses were dotted around as if the people had been going about their daily activities when they died. Mysteriously, there was a message being broadcast from the SCP Foundation in the alternate reality saying that there had been a containment breach and communication breakdown, urging everyone to stay in their home. The Foundation sent teams to find out more and collect samples. They arrived to find the area almost exactly the same as the world on the other side of the cave, but with all life gone. Even the most dangerous SCPs from the Foundation had died. The samples they took revealed some surprising facts. Each organism had suffered 100% cell death, explaining why the corpses weren't rotting. Judging by the date on a newspaper found there, this had happened on the 20th of April 2016, or a few days before the team arrived. But what or who had killed everyone? On a later mission, even stranger things started happening. One of the personnel, Agent Keller, was exploring a Foundation site in the alternate reality when he sent out an ominous message to the rest of the team. He told them to seal the cave and detonated the building where he was, killing himself and the rest of his men. Incidentally, Keller's corpse from the alternate dimension was the only one decomposing. This is where things get complicated. It turned out that Keller had found an encrypted message written by an alternate dimension Keller who had set out on a mission to a different alternate dimension after detecting strange radio signals from the cave. But when this alternate dimension Keller returned, he found every living thing in his own dimension dead. He then killed himself. The Keller from this dimension opted to kill himself when he found out, worrying that if he returned to his own dimension, it would result in the death of every living creature there, too. The Foundation promptly sealed the cave. Although there's lots of uncertainty over how the people in the alternate world died, the Foundation suspects some creature is using radio signals to lure Foundation members down cave. If it succeeds, it could spell death and destruction.
If you go in, you're fine. You come back out, everyone you know is dead from your reality.
Nailed it.
So you just gotta fucking kill yourself.
And you got
Or stay in the
Congrats. Now
alternate dimension, I guess.
In charge of some of the strangest, scariest, and most dangerous discoveries out there. And it's time to secure, contain, and protect. So what is your assignment here at the good old SCP Foundation?
Don't worry about it.
You must have drawn the short
What would you do for the alarm clock?
One of the deadliest creatures in the organization's custody, SCP-096, also known as the Shy Guy. As your terrible luck would have it, on your first day looking after it, SCP-096 has escaped from custody, and you're now in very real danger of a direct encounter. It's now up to you to face off against this formidable foe and try to make it out in one piece. But don't despair just yet. We're here with all the advice you need to survive your first day on the job and best SCP-096 as lethal as it may be. So strap in and get ready for the fight of your life.
Vacuum.
Before we can talk about how a fight against this anomalous
interesting.
creature might go for you, it's important to know your enemy as well as you can.
So in like a
That's why
soundproof bunker, it would
SCP-096
just create its own
may look
vacuum.
The shy guy, but trust us when we say it is nowhere near as demure as that sounds.
Oh,
In fact, 096 may be one of the most
I see.
frightening finds in the history of the organization, and it's not to be underestimated. An emaciated-looking humanoid creature, Shy Guy stands about 2.38 meters tall. It is pale and hairless, with unnaturally long arms that span a length of 1.5 meters each. Perfect for strangling, beating, and dismembering foes from a distance. If that wasn't terrifying enough, its jaw can open 4 times wider than the average human. You read that correctly. This thing can open its jaw 4 times wider than a human jaw. Its eyes have no pigmentation, and it may or may not be able to see. Whether it has a sense of sight or not, SCP-096 can tell when it's being observed. Normally, when left alone, it spends its time pacing and largely keeping to itself. However, once its face has been seen, whether in person, via a video feed, or in a photograph, SCP-096 stops being quite so docile. This is where the dangerous part comes in. Once its face has been spotted, SCP-096 flies into hysterics, screaming, babbling, and covering its face in apparent despair. Don't feel too guilty for upsetting it, however, because that's time you should be using to run. The next thing the creature will do, once it's got its weeping out of its system, is begin heading right for you. SCP-096 runs at a documented speed of at least 35 kilometers per hour, so good luck trying to outrun it once it sets its sights on you. Once it reaches you, it will kill you. Details of the method of killing have been redacted from official SCP reports, but whatever it does, it leaves no trace of its victim behind. So you're very possibly going to get really familiar with that freakishly large mouth. When SCP-096 was initially captured, it was found outdoors in extreme cold without a scrap of clothing on it. The creature was just calmly sitting there, without giving off so much as a shiver in response to the temperature. Multiple members of the team assigned to retrieve it happened to see its face, and that's when the mission took a turn for the worse. The entity began to scream and cry, sounding more like a person than an animal, to a reportedly uncanny degree. The team fired on the entity, but the bullets didn't do so much as phase it. It picked up one member of the team and ripped off his leg. The team fired an anti-tank round at the entity, and again, it didn't so much as slow it down or take any noticeable structural damage. The entity only calmed when everyone who had seen its face was destroyed, after which it sat back down. A soldier who had not yet seen the creature's face placed a bag over its head, seemingly preventing any future deadly outbursts. So now let's get back to your predicament. You're working at the SCP Foundation, going about your merry business when suddenly—
I mean, if you've seen the face, you're fucked regardless, you know?
And escaped SCP-096. Face being the operative word. The first tip for surviving an encounter with SCP-096 is to avoid looking at its face. Of course, but when that option is—
Okay, so why haven't they tried? Like how that guy said, put on the cardboard box? But why haven't, like, that guy put a bag over its head and that saved them, and he didn't care the bag was over his head. Why haven't they tried to, like, fuse something that covers its face? Like, cover its head in molten metal or something. Like, he can survive it, he won't care about the pain. Why don't they do something that makes his face completely unseeable regardless? It regenerates its face, right? Put the cardboard box on 096, let's go! But like, what if they just encased his face in metal or something?
Window, what can you do?
Because if bullets don't phase him, if like, that bag didn't phase him, like...
Is it possible to defeat the creature that wasn't even slowed down by an anti-tank weapon and a team of armed operatives? Maybe. It may be tempting to try and take a flamethrower to the gangling creep or just turn tail and run away from it. But as we know by now, neither of these solutions are likely to be viable. However, there is hope, and maybe your first day at the new job does not have to be your last. There are a few possible solutions that would allow you to come out victorious in a conflict with SCP-096, and they have less to do with pure firepower and more to do with utilizing the most powerful weapon in the human arsenal, your mind. Option 1. Cover the entity
Interesting.
face. As previously mentioned, the entity's aggressive behavior was curtailed when a bag was placed over its head during its capture. Covering SCP-096's face seems to render it passive, even helpless. However, this is a risky option, as it would require you to get close enough to the entity to put a covering over its face, and it's likely that getting that close would result in you accidentally seeing said face. Once that happens, it may be too late to get the bag over its head before the entity flies into a rage and tears you limb from limb like a helpless crustacean.
Get a blind person to do it.
You could always try to.
They're pretty good, like, sensing things around them.
The bag in the world's most dangerous game of pin the tail on a donkey, but we don't recommend it. Option 2 is high risk, but with a potentially high reward. While SCP-096 does not respond to assaults with deadly weapons, there is one thing that it is afraid of, and that has done significant damage to it in the past. This is yet another highly dangerous entity, SCP-682, one of the most powerful, deadly, and aggressive anomalies the Foundation has ever been able to contain. This entity is not to be trifled with, but if you can get it into the room with SCP-096 and get yourself as far away from the both of them as possible,
man.
The two creatures were previously introduced to each other in an attempt to terminate SCP-096, and while 096 survived the encounter, it emerged from the attempt severely wounded and upset. Future exposure to SCP-682 caused SCP-096 to erupt into hysterics, screaming and clawing at its own face. If you need to get SCP-096's attention away from you and perhaps succeed in terminating it, it is definitely worth a shot. So what is SCP-682? Simply put, it's a highly dangerous and difficult to destroy reptilian creature. It exhibits a high level of intelligence. Unlike SCP-096, which does not appear to be especially intelligent or aware of its surroundings beyond its fits of rage that follow its face being seen. This entity hates all life forms and is incredibly strong, fast, and exhibits lightning-quick reflexes. Its size fluctuates dramatically and quickly depending on what it's ingested. It's capable of speech and has given several interviews where it admits its hatred for life and its willingness to kill. It is regarded as extremely dangerous, and it's seemingly impossible to permanently kill. We say permanently because the creature has been temporarily killed in the past, but it was able to resurrect itself afterwards. It recovered from bullets, acid, fire, and attacks from other SCPs. It has successfully escaped 6 times and attempted escape unsuccessfully 17 additional times. So is it worth it to attempt to employ SCP-682 as a weapon against 096? That is debatable, but the answer is likely no. At the very least, it's a dangerous last resort that would possibly cost you your life even if it is able to terminate 096. For starters, SCP-682 would have to be released from its containment, a room full of acid that consistently erodes away its skin so that it can attack 096 in the first place. As previously mentioned, 682 is highly intelligent and is unlikely to be able to be tricked or manipulated into acting on your behalf unknowingly. If it goes after SCP-096 and attacks the humanoid monstrosity, it will do so only because it wants to. Because this creature hates all living things and you just happen to be living, it's just as likely that it'll attack and kill you before it goes after SCP-096. However, if by some miracle you were able to get SCP-682 and the Shy Guy into the same room without getting killed in the process, then you may have just freed yourself from this dangerous trap. Once 682 sees 96, it'll attempt to kill it, as it has in previous encounters. Meanwhile, 96 will be thrown into a state of distress at the sight of 682, distracting the Shy Guy from your presence and allowing you to escape and find a superior who can amend the situation and return both creatures to their containment. This would require a great deal of planning, however, and no small amount of good luck. Since you found yourself in this situation in the first place, luck does not appear to be on your side. This brings us to our third and final option, and it's the one that's most likely to prove effective against SCP-096, allowing you to terminate the creature and emerge victorious. As you already know, the Shy Guy cannot bear for anyone to see its face, and will viciously attack anyone that does so. Much like in the myth of Perseus and Medusa, it all comes down to reflections. In the story of Medusa, the hero Perseus was able to avoid being turned into stone by looking at Medusa's reflection in his shield, rather than looking at her directly. Since SCP-096 attacks anyone who sees its face, not just directly but via indirect methods like video and photographs, it's unlikely that looking at its reflection would save you. However, we aren't just trying to save you, we're trying to defeat SCP-096. The solution is as simple as it is effective. Take a reflective surface, ideally a mirror or a piece of reflective metal if you can find one in the facility, and approach SCP-096 with it. Keep your eyes averted from its face, looking down at the rest of his body or just at its feet on the floor. Just make sure that you can see which way it's facing. Then present the creature with the mirror, showing it its own reflection. If what we know about the entity holds true, it will fly into its trademark uncontrollable violent rage and begin to attack the creature that has seen its face. In this scenario, that creature is itself. It'll begin to tear itself to pieces, ripping and clawing until there's nothing left of itself or until it cannot move anymore. Because SCP-096 seems to be stronger than any weapons we have, the only weapon that makes sense to kill it with is itself. Once it's stopped its self-destructive assault and has been neutralized, you will be
But
able
it
to
said they don't know if it
escape
can
with
see,
your life and
right?
Knowledge that this deadly threat has been eliminated once and for all. Congratulations.
'Cause
Not
what if
only
it's
did you
blind?
live through your first day at the SCP Foundation, but you succeeded where countless
Like he
other scientists
senses
have
where
failed.
people are.
Managed to terminate
He
one
senses
of the
they've seen their
organization's
face.
deadliest finds.
What if he's blind though?
Okay,
and can't see
it won't
himself?
be that easy. If
Sure, yeah, go for it.
reflection was the simplest way to totally kill it, the Foundation would have done it already. But according to some accounts, being presented with reflective surfaces has caused the creature to frantically claw at its own face in a state of extreme distress.
After the chapter, actually.
What could be a better distraction to tag and bag this insecure monster and cart it back to its cell? Either way, your work here is done. Run yourself a hot bath, pour yourself a drink, and celebrate a job well done. Now let's see what kind of trouble you can run into tomorrow. What a
Skill issue.
It really is beautiful up there.
We're sure it is. You ready to get started?
Yep, I'm ready. Looking at the photo now.
Alright, we're tracking 096's position. He's gaining altitude. Get ready to evade. Steady.
Don't drop the picture, bro. Someone else is gonna see it. Destroy it.
Steady. Evade.
Oh, wow. That's what he did.
Got him.
Get dodged. Hey, Kizzle, what's up? Huh, interesting. Blood is gonna hit a random object in space and someone. Yeah, honestly. He's lived his whole life doing. Yep. If you erase him from your mind, you will live. Oh. Alright, good night, Ash. Get Alzheimer's. Amnestics, baby. Swallow the eel coom. Bro, the fucking Cars monologue. Gorge yourself on the eel coom. Oh, man. Oh, 9-6, but the very next guy thought he was a gun, but no, just him. Oh, man. The bitch came back the very next day. Oh, the bitch came back.
year 2020's been so far. The year started out great, a new decade, a new you, and then quickly spiraled out of control, with you ending up in a fight versus Baby Yoda, the Mandalorian, the Joker, you name it, and you've been in a battle royale for your life ever since this crappy year started. Not to mention the time you took a job as a Combine transhuman civil protection officer, and you had your memories wiped so you could forget all about your past horrors, only to have Gordon freaking Freeman reappear after 20 years and ruin your day all over again. Well, that's it. You've had it. You're officially retiring from the world and buying a nice, quaint suburban home somewhere where the biggest threat you'll have to worry about is your neighbor Joe growing greener grass than yours. Your first night into suburbia bliss, though, and you wake up with the strong urge to check the window. Confused, you groggily walk over to the window and peer outside, only to feel your blood run cold. Standing there in a sort of half-crouch is a person. No, it's a thing of some kind that looks vaguely like a person. This monster is tall, skinny, and has two deeply set eyes that are boring straight into your soul. Seriously, you just can't catch a break. When did you officially take over Bruce Campbell's job and become humanity's last line of defense against evil, the wicked, and well, just plain weird? You resign yourself to your fate as you reach for the nearest baseball bat because you may not have a chainsaw hand, but you're officially in a fight to the death against the legendary internet monster, the Rake. The Rake is a recently rediscovered monster with origins in the 12th century, when it was first reported. The creature appeared to be extremely rare, however, and there may have been accounts pre-12th century, but the 1100s is simply the earliest documented accounts of the creature that have survived to this day. What exactly the creature is, though, remains a matter of discussion. Accounts on the creature's behavior range from the benign to the outright hostile, with some witnesses reporting that the creature simply observed them for long periods of time, and others saying that they or someone they know was physically attacked by it. Its motives are impossible to determine, and its transitions from peaceful observation to violent outbursts are so alien that some have theorized that the Rake may indeed be an extraterrestrial creature. It's not even known if the entity is a single creature with an incredibly long lifespan or multiple creatures that have survived for centuries. Where it originated is also unknown, as the earliest reports come from Europe. Yet one account from a sailor in 1681 during the exploration of the New World seems to indicate that the creature threatened him to return with his crew to England and never return. While motives and even the nature of the creature are still unknown, there are two common behaviors of the Rake widely reported in eyewitness accounts. The first is its propensity to visit sleeping individuals who are awakened when they become aware of its presence. Nearly every time the creature is discovered sitting or crouching silently at the foot of the bed, and oddly enough, some witnesses claim to feel terror upon discovering it, while others feel curiosity or even a sense of compassion. Upon realizing that the witness is awake, the Rake will approach and typically touch the individual, sometimes causing an almost psychotic fear response that lingers long after the creature has left. Some investigators claim that the government is aware of the creature's origins or intentions and is actively working to frustrate the efforts of research into the Rake. After an outbreak of sightings in 2003, the story, which was widely reported in the media at the time, mysteriously disappeared from all media. The information blackout even stretched into electronic sources and eyewitness accounts, which were systematically purged from websites across the internet. While the who behind the cover-up isn't known, what's clear is that only the US government or perhaps an alien entity could have the resources to undertake such a massive purge of information. The Rake continues to be seen to this day, even occasionally being caught on infrared camera traps used by hunters. The creature stands out at around 6 feet tall, though seems to prefer to move on all fours and rarely ever stands unless threatened. It has two deeply set eyes and a small mouth which unhinges to become much larger, displaying rows of large but dulled teeth. Its long fingers end in sharp claws, which has often been used to attack witnesses who attempt to provoke or approach the creature. While the Rake is physically tall, it's not particularly imposing though, as it appears to be very thin and scrawny, likely weighing in at around 150 pounds. Other than a viciously savage disposition when provoked or when randomly attacking individuals, the Rake is not known to be particularly strong or fast, simply using the victim's own surprise and terror to overwhelm them. Attacks are not known to be fatal, though they can cause extreme injuries thanks to the creature's small but sharp claws. So the Rake is haunting your peaceful suburban slice of life. How are you going to fight and defeat this creepy monster of the night? First, you want to avoid getting bad touched by the Rake because it appears as if the creature has the ability to impart extremely negative emotions through touch. It's possible the Rake has some low-level psychic power that requires physical touch, but can leave you with a crippling terror that can take weeks or even years to overcome. Given the creature's lack of physical strength, Perhaps it developed this ability as a defense mechanism. To avoid the rake's bad touch, take the advice given to many altar boys and get yourself a neoprene diving suit to wear under your clothes. The skin-tight diving suit can be extremely difficult to remove without your consent, and the half-inch thick layer of material is meant to insulate your body from freezing ocean temperatures, perfect for blocking the bad touch powers of the rake or a renegade Catholic priest. With a hood, this leaves only your face exposed to potential bad touches.
Why the
Though
priest?
if you're
Priest,
really
what?
concerned, you can pick yourself up a hockey mask and protect your moneymaker. The rake's primary weapon seems to be its small but sharp claws, which your diving suit won't protect from. Take a tip from the wildlife photographers and videographers and buy yourself a steel mesh shark suit, meant to be worn over your diving suit. That steel mesh suit has been worn by
Become a
documentary makers all over
priest,
the world
right?
and can protect from shark
I can't
attacks
leave.
up to a shark as big as a bull shark, making it perfect for things like getting right in the middle of a school of hunting white reef sharks. You've protected yourself physically.
He's just
from the
trying to
rake,
get
but there's one more
dressed like a
ability to be
fucking
aware of.
idiot.
Further evidence of the rake's low-level psychic abilities comes from its ability to project a soothing or non-threatening aura to some witnesses, despite its monstrous appearance. You don't want to take any chances and have this thing lull you into a sense of complacency, so it can bad touch you all over the place. So you need to get into the right frame of mind. You need to get into and stay in
Just
a
hate your
fighting mood.
fashion
And for
sense.
that, there's literally nothing better than some good old Rage Against the Machine. Back in the heyday of the 90s, Rage tried to warn us about the lack of affordable housing, exploitation of workers by corporations, and the widening divide between the 2% wealthy elite and the rest of us. Today, well, let's just say that their music was nothing if not prophetic. So channel your inner anger at being denied a living wage while having your rent increased every year, or the fact that no matter how hard you work, you'll literally never afford a home and spend most of your life repaying student loans which accrue interest. It's time to get angry and stay that way. It's time to rage against the rake. But how do you defeat the rake? Well, to be honest, it's not particularly difficult. The creature may be creepy and have some low-level psychic abilities, but it's not super fast or super strong. Most witnesses
Rick
are
just
too
moved
shocked
up
by
to
its
my
terrifying
double
appearance
barrel.
to react, but you are a modern-day Bruce Campbell. You've faced hordes of witches, aliens, and demons already. This scrawny nerd is a piece of cake for you. So pick up that baseball bat and head on down to Pound Town, because this internet meme is getting squashed for good. Just avoid that bad touch.
Riz on
I
parade.
know what you're thinking. How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? But don't worry. You spoke, we listened, and now we're going to take another crack at this. The SCP Foundation harbors some of the most terrifying creatures and entities humanity has ever known. From plague doctors that can kill with a touch, to murderous old men who can walk through walls,
Fizz on
to
your
cataclysmic multi-dimensional nightmare
Fizz.
gods. If an average civilian came into contact with one of the Foundation's more aggressive entities, they're probably doomed. So let's even the odds. You're a member of one of the Foundation's mobile task forces, the highly trained special ops groups employed by the Foundation to retrieve or subdue dangerous anomalies. You have almost unlimited resources, advanced knowledge of your enemies, and technology not available to standard militaries. If anyone can get these beasts under control, it's you. And today you have your job cut
Paralyzed
out for you.
prey?
There's been a deadly containment breach.
I feel like that's not the effect, you know?
Abominations are on the
Something
loose.
more seductive, hypnotic
SCP-173,
maybe.
The deadly living statue. SCP-096, the mass murdering
Yeah, why would it
shotgun.
paralyze?
SCP-682.
It would-
and a
it would have
moral,
the
highly
strongest
intelligent
levels of
wizard with
Riz.
a serious attitude problem. Seeing as you're not working for Site-13's director,
So damn
Anderson, or the
sticky,
Global
it's so
Cultural
Riz
Relations, the objective
sticky.
isn't to kill these monsters, and let's be honest, you probably couldn't if you tried. If we can get this terrible trio back into containment with minimal casualties, without getting killed or eaten in the process, we can
It's just
call
the most
this a
extreme
win.
aphrodisiac,
Let's see
you
what
know?
these entities are made of and how we
The
might
procedure
be able
is
to
a
get
machine
them
called
back
the
into
femur
containment
breaker.
by any means necessary. First up, SCP-173, also known as the Sculpture, the Killer Statue, and by some, the Peanut. This is one you'll want to keep an eye on. Seriously, if you take your eyes off this creature for so much as a second, even to blink, it'll zoom at you with incredible speed and snap your neck like an Olive Garden breadstick. Despite being one of the more well-known monsters from the SCP Foundation catalog, the creature commands an impressive sense of mystery. According to tests, the creature's body is made entirely of concrete, rebar, and the Krylon brand spray paint that gives its distinctive markings. It appears to have no nervous or vascular systems, rendering dangerous nerve agents useless against it, and we still don't know what gives this creature its anomalous properties. The creature does somehow emit blood and waste products in spite of this, but you'll learn that things often don't make sense when you're dealing with anomalies. The Foundation, however, has worked out a means for keeping this creature contained relatively safely. Personnel are even able to enter the cell to clean, provided they go in there 3 at a time to maintain a constant visual on the creature. creature. But in the event of a containment breach, all bets are off. When those alarm bells are ringing, and you're hearing the gruesome telltale crunches of necks snapping all around you, it's easy for panic to set in. This creature has incredible speed, seemingly unlimited aggression, and more physical strength than any human being. So how do you get it back into containment? Perhaps you can gang up on the beast with 2 other members of your mobile task force and take blink shifts to make sure it doesn't get loose and tear you a new one. You could, but that's an extremely risky option. You may be highly disciplined soldiers, but in a high-pressure situation, everyone makes mistakes, and making a mistake around SCP-173 can cost you and your entire team the integrity of your spines. So what's a completely safe method of maintaining constant visual contact with the sculpture while you're returning it to its containment cell? Thankfully, the answer is right under your nose, in Site-19, where the sculpture has been kept since 1993. Meet SCP-131, also known as the iPods. These are 2 friendly safe class anomalies that appear to be small biomechanical creatures with a single perpetually unblinking eye at the center of their bodies. They're harmless and benevolent beings who have a natural tendency toward helping and protecting humans, and in this instance, they're the key to getting 173 back under control. If you recruit the help of these friendly little creatures, they'll keep an eye on SCP-173, keeping it frozen in its own body as you lift it up and haul it to the containment. And hey, presto, that's 1 SCP back under lock and key, 2 to go. But don't get too comfortable, because now you're going toe-to-toe with SCP-096, aka the Shy Guy. While this creature is a Euclid class just like 173, when it's out of containment, it's an order of magnitude more dangerous than its concrete predecessor. While this huge, gangling white creature might be docile when not in its rage state, if someone so much as glimpses the creature's face, even a single pixel of a photo, though not artistic depictions, this thing becomes an unstoppable destruction machine. It'll turn tanks and military helicopters into lumps of inert metal. It'll run through solid walls like they're wet tissue paper. Think you can take this creature down with 50 caliber sniper bullets and anti-tank missiles? We regret to inform you that it can take that licking and keep on ticking. Even with the majority of its body mass destroyed, the creature keeps going, and its skeletal structure appears to be totally indestructible. It can travel at frightening speeds with unlimited stamina and has killed 100% of human targets that have seen its face. Its ferocity is so great that it doesn't leave a single trace of any of its victims. Seeing as it was discovered butt naked in sub-zero temperatures and appears just as effective in combat deep underwater as it does on land, there's really no battleground where you have the advantage. If the reason this monster breached containment is that you saw its face, well, other than praying, you might be out of luck. But if the creature breached containment because some other poor sucker saw its face, then at least you're in there with a fighting chance of getting the creature back into containment. First, you should never attempt to stop the creature while it's still in hot pursuit of whoever saw its face. You simply will not stop it in that state.
Doesn't have
really has. You must
96. Look at the picture.
Post-kill state.
Or have the D class. Look at the picture.
Avoid seeing its face in the process. The Foundation has explored methods of augmenting vision in order to
sacrifice the D class to get him back in.
Scramble technology.
Right.
This has often resulted in grim and deadly failure that left good task force members dead. Your objective will be to quite literally bag the creature by pulling a bag over its head. The creature will not attempt to remove the bag, at least for a while, as it displays no real intelligence outside of its single-minded pursuit of prey. Once it's bagged, the monster can be easily captured and taken back to containment, where it will endlessly pace around its cell under constant audio-only surveillance from Foundation personnel. But here's the question: how do you get so close to the thing without looking at it? Thankfully, you have valuable knowledge gleaned from a certain classic party game, Pin the Tail on the Donkey. The creature will only go into attack mode if its face is seen or if you attack it first. So after locating the creature, your best course of action is to blindfold yourself and approach with the bag. It's a daunting task, but if you can establish enough physical contact to estimate the position of the head, then bag it, you've just saved a lot of lives, and have ultimate bragging rights that you beat a classic party game on hard mode. SCP-096 is now safely on the way back to the Foundation, where Dr. Dan can continue his tireless research into its neutralization. 2 down, 1 to go, and boy, have we saved the hardest for last. Meet SCP-682, also known as the hard-to-kill reptile. And believe us when we say this thing has earned that nickname. This creature has faced off
Hey, what's up, Black Power Ranger? How you doing, man?
Survived every encounter. It also engaged in a brutal 27-hour battle with SCP-096 in the past, and not only survived but reduced the
Yeah, it was
shot to a
nice, man.
shivering,
Hope you've been
incoherent
well.
mess. Unlike its two predecessors, 682 is not a mindless monster, but is actually an extremely intelligent predator capable of advancing.
I know, right?
setting deadly traps, such as creating
30
a
hat
shell around
6.
its body to protect from attack, and shattering the shell
You
and
gonna
deadly
fuck your
shards
30
to
hat
shred
6 up.
Foundation personnel when they approached. There's even some merit to the theory that SCP-682 is one of the 7 children of the legendary and terrifying Scarlet King, thought by the Foundation to be the greatest living threat to the multiverse. SCP-682 may not be the deadliest SCP out there, considering that there are some who are more capable of triggering the apocalypse, but it's rightly one of the most feared. The monster's reputation comes from 3 main factors: durability, adaptability, and malice. And you'll need to understand all 3 of these if you want any hope of getting the hard-to-kill reptile back into containment. Durability. The Foundation have tried every conceivable method of killing this thing, from total incineration to high-powered acid to cross-testing with other deadly anomalies. And the only time 682 has been successfully killed is in the alternate universe contained within SCP-2935. However, no battle is worth risking the involvement of SCP-2935, as it could result in the spontaneous destruction of all life in our dimension. Next, adaptability. 682 has shown that it's capable of learning, adapting to, and weaponizing anything.
You guys recognize me?
Joy-inducing
Ooh.
effects of SCP-9 were
Nice.
transformed into a crippling laughter blast that allowed 682 to break containment. And finally,
Wait, what?
malice. 682 joy and of learning, adapting to, and weaponizing anything used against it. Even the calming, joy-inducing effects of SCP-999 were transformed into a crippling laughter blast that allowed 682 to break containment. And finally, malice. 682 despises all life of any kind and has the stated intention of killing anything and everything it can. While it may be intelligent, there's no reasoning with this creature. It wants you and your team dead, and it will do anything to make that happen. Seeing as there's no hope of killing this thing, how can you potentially incapacitate it and get it back into its acid-filled containment chamber before it recovers? Well, for this, we need to turn back to the classic adage, there's safety in numbers. According to SCP-682's official documentation, in case of containment breach, SCP-682 is to be tracked and recaptured by all available mobile task forces, and no teams with fewer than 7 members are cleared to engage it. In other words, your best bet is calling in all the heavily armed reinforcements you can and taking on the creature with a mix of advanced military tactics and conventional arms firing. While the classic monster movie temptation of busting out the nukes and napalm may be alluring, the risk of the creature adapting to those attacks and introducing them into his own arsenal is too great. There are some SCPs who have been known to have a pacifying effect on 682 and may therefore be useful in your recapture mission. Perhaps the best example is SCP-053, a small child who causes murderous tendencies in those who spend more than 10 minutes in her presence. While bringing her along definitely puts a time limit on the mission, 53 has an unparalleled ability to make 682 become docile without giving it any new powers in the process. She may be able to prevent 682 from causing further damage while your team mobilizes around the creature. With her help, it may be possible for you and your small army of mobile task force members to get SCP-682 tagged, bagged, and hauled back to the base for containment. So there you have it, the tried and true methods for getting these deadly creatures and entities back under Foundation control. If you spend enough time on the internet, it's just a fact of life that you'll see something you really wish you hadn't. Maybe it's perennial shock site classics like 2 Girls, 1 Cup, or some of the truly horrific photos and footage of real-life death and murder floating around on the web. But what if we told you there was something even worse out there? An image that just by looking at it, you might be driven to pain, madness, or even
Half
death.
the time I feel like
That's
this is about to be
exactly
like
what we're here to discuss
NordVPN.
today. The terrifying internet legend of Smile Dog, the photo with the power to kill. Smile Dog is the colloquial name for a seemingly innocent image file called smile.jpg that's been floating around the internet since as early as 1992. According to most sources, because of the image's place in internet folklore, there are thousands of copycats out there, none that have the sinister and deadly power of the original. From the
By
scattered
using
reports of
NordVPN,
the image's
right?
victims, we do have a vague description. It's a scan of a Polaroid photo featuring a dog that appears to be a Siberian Husky against a dark background. The dog has a wide, almost human grin, with teeth that look like they simply don't belong in the creature's face. Worse yet, in the darkened corner to the left of the dog is a red hand, outstretched toward the viewer. Many of the people who've actually seen the image have described the hand as beckoning. as though it's calling them into the darkness of the photo. Some viewers have even speculated that this is the hand of the devil himself, calling them down to the depths of hell. Naturally, as an intellectually curious viewer of the infographic show, you'll want to search for the cursed image. And don't worry, we're going to show it to you. That's right, the real, original smile.jpg. But before we subject you to that, you have to understand what you're getting yourself into here. After all, if the legends are true, it might just change your life. While the stories about smile.jpg have circulated the internet since the internet was a publicly available commodity, the first true, solid, and widely available account of a person's experience with smile.jpg and SmileDog appeared on 4chan's paranormal board in 2008. The
4chan?
paranormal board is the birthplace of a number of terrifying internet urban legends and creepypastas, such as the malicious shape-shifting goat man, the dead Daruma-san bath ritual, and an infamous porcelain doll with living, wriggling innards. A frightening tale like that of SmileDog would be right at home on this hub of the strange and paranormal.
One second, we might hood it back on.
Detail.
It's getting cold. This is spooky though, I'm enjoying it. So I'm getting my little hoodie blanket on. Get nice and comfy. Also, my bathroom door was slightly open and that was letting light in. We can't have actual natural light, it's supposed to be spooky. Natural light ain't spooky.
They'll still stick with everyone unlucky enough to read them. It began with someone who was just curious, not unlike you. They were a young, aspiring writer in college, searching for interesting stories that might inspire some exciting new fiction. But they stumbled on a horror that was all too real. They put out the call for people with interesting stories on the internet and got plenty of duds. You know, all the stories about that time someone's weird uncle caught a big one while out fishing, or a kid could swear they saw something moving under their bed. The young writer, identified only as Mr. L in the account, was ready to throw in the towel and give up when he received a strange correspondence from a man named Terrence E. in the summer of 2007. According to Terrence, if Mr. L was looking for scary stories, his
Mr.
wife
L?
Mary had one that would beat out all the rest. Something genuinely terrifying, genuinely paranormal. According to Terrence, Mary had experienced a real encounter with the original smile.jpg image, and nothing has been the same ever since. It just so happened that Terrence had contacted exactly the right person, as Mr. L had been fascinated with the concept of SmileDog ever since he was in the 10th grade, back in 2005. He could feel the mystery of the thing drawing him in, the desire to discover what nobody else had discovered before. Terrence consulted Mary and she agreed to an informal interview with Mr. L around a month later. The couple were based in Chicago and Mr. L just happened to be in the area on unrelated business. Everything seemed to be falling into place until Mr. L actually arrived at the home. When he got there, eager to conduct his interview and potentially discover the truth behind all this hearsay, Mary had barricaded herself in her bathroom. She appeared to be having some kind of psychotic break, screaming and sobbing uncontrollably, like she was afraid for her very life. In particular, Mary was screaming about some strange nightmare she was experiencing, but it was largely too incoherent to even tell what she was saying. Terrence tried his best to console her for Mr. L's interview, but it didn't do any good. From hours of sitting outside the bathroom and taking notes, he only managed to glean the following story. Mary was a system operator for a small Chicago-based bulletin board system back in 1992, when the internet was still in its relative infancy. One day, a seemingly innocent hyperlink was posted on the board system, and she was one of around 400 to actually click the mysterious link, and was immediately transported to smile.jpg. The other people who were exposed on that day remained anonymous and their fates are unknown, but if Mary's accounts and the legends are anything to go by, their stories are unlikely to have had happy endings. As Mr. L pressed for further details, Mary just sobbed and cried harder. The woman was inconsolable, and Mr. L realized he'd probably gotten as much as he was going to get from her. Terrence apologized for his wife's strange behavior, and Mr. L thanked him and left. This may have seemed like the end of things for most people, but for Mr. L, this was just the start. The hunt was on, and Mary's brief account had given him the scent. He began gathering all the information he could on the mysterious file, its effects on its victims, and the people it hurt. But as the famous quote from German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche goes, "He who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you." Mr. L found that information on smile.jpg wasn't available anywhere on major internet information sources like Wikipedia. In fact, he found that if anyone did attempt to add a reference to the cursed file on a Wikipedia page, it would quickly be struck down by editors. Who was trying to keep this thing buried, and why? He also managed to discover a great deal more about the supposed effects of viewing the file. The most common effects included, on the mild end, severe anxiety and persistent night terrors, and on the more severe end, hallucinations and temporal lobe epilepsy, with seizures most commonly occurring at night. Naturally, as with anything on the internet that can cause harm, it was weaponized by trolls and bad actors. The image was often circulated on forums in the early Usenet days, and was allegedly once used to flood the forums of humor and satire website Something Awful back in 2002. The result was a number of users developing severe anxiety, nightmares, and epilepsy. Back in the mid to late 90s, the image circulated as all spooky things on the internet did back then, by chain email. The email would disguise itself as one of the number of feel-good chain emails that did the rounds back then, with the innocuous subject line, "Smile, God loves you." But by the time you've opened the email and its attachment, it's already too late. Plenty of people on the internet claim to have had experiences with Smile Dog, but the veracity of these claims are in dispute. During his investigations, Mr. L did notice some other legends with eerie commonalities to the Smile.jpg tale he was investigating. The most prominent was a story known as the Grinning Man, about a person who received an email from a
Hopefully that's not too big a deal.
friend with an image of, you guessed it, a grinning man. However, after witnessing the image and an accompanying key phrase, the man's life spiraled out of control, with the only way to lift the apparent curse being to pass it on. From the smiling to the horrific nightmares to the inevitable tragic end, could the two things be connected? There was no conclusive evidence on the matter, but Mr. L was sure to make a note of it for further study. Mr. L continued compiling research for an entire year, always haunted by the cries of Mary coming through the bathroom door and the thought of that smiling hound. He discovered that many of the people who'd originally claimed to see the thing had fallen off the map, and that some had tried to use medication to prevent the nightmares and the epileptic fits that seemed to naturally accompany an incident with the image. All it took was one look, just one little look, to change your life. It felt like a somehow more eerily plausible version of the tape from The Ring. At times, Mr. L wondered if the whole thing was just some elaborate hoax, an online inside joke, and it was all on him. Truth be told, he felt almost ready to give up when he finally got a massive break in the case, an email from Mary herself explaining the whole situation. Mr. L eagerly opened the correspondence, excited for his next lead, but what he saw shook him to the core. Mary explained that the image of the Smile Dog had been haunting her in her sleep for years, repeatedly saying one thing: spread the word, spread the word. She experienced symptoms akin to sleep paralysis, being frozen to the bed and unable to do anything but listen to the words of the demonic dog sitting in front of her. Spread the word, spread the word. She told Mr. L that a week after initially seeing Smile.jpg, a floppy disk containing the image was mysteriously mailed to her home. Finally, she understood. Much like the Grinning Man that Mr. L had been investigating, the Smile Dog wanted her to pass the image on and use it to inflict the curse upon others. That would be the only way to stop suffering from the symptoms herself. The nightly seizures and visions she was experiencing were so horrific that she was tempted to pass it on to others, and even contemplated potential options: a coworker, a stranger, or even her husband, Terrence. Mary decided against it and instead hid the floppy disk away for years, until she finally found a person she could potentially pass the curse on to: Mr. L himself. However, as she was plotting to pass on the curse to him and ruin his life, she decided against it at the last minute. Hence her breakdown in the bathroom upon his visit. Realizing it's already too late for her, and racked with guilt over what she almost did, Mary signed off the email with a harrowing final message for Mr. L: stop while you are still whole. Later that month, Mr. L received another email from Terrence telling him that Mary had taken her own life shortly after sending the last email to him. She just couldn't take the suffering anymore. Terrence also informed Mr. L that he'd found and destroyed the floppy disk by setting it on fire, adding that the plastic gave a snake-like hiss as it burnt and shriveled, destroying yet another copy of the cursed image once and for all. Mr. L was ready to hang up his hat and close the investigation into Smile.jpg. People had suffered and even died, and just as Mary had advised him to, he was going to quit while he was ahead. It was a couple months later, when he'd almost forced the whole nasty affair out of his mind, that he saw a new email appear in his inbox with the subject line, Smile. Without even thinking, he clicked on it, and by that point, it was already too late.
Bro.
The text in the body of the email, littered with spelling and grammatical errors, said, I found your email address through a mailing list. Your profile said you're interested in Smile Dog. I have saw it. It is not as bad as everyone says. I have sent it to you here. Just spreading the word. And the rest is spooky internet history. Now you've heard the story and you know all the horrors this strange little photo is said to be able to unleash. Maybe it's all just an urban legend, a hoax, or mass hysteria. After all, how much damage can one picture do? But hey, if you want to be safe, you can always send this video to a couple friends and spread the word. Working at the SCP Foundation has never been an easy job.
Well,
but through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, you've been able to work your way up
it's
from
just
being
an
a
STD.
to being a fully fledged member of the Foundation's science team. Sometimes the work can be tough. After all, most of the SCPs under your supervision are direct threats to humanity. One SCP you never thought you'd have a problem with was 049, also known as the Plague Doctor. SCP-049 is usually cooperative, even sometimes sharing the findings from his research with the science team. But today, he somehow breached containment, and worse still, he seems to have a problem with you. According to 049, you've been infected with the pestilence. What does that mean? Why is that so dangerous? And what can you do to get this monstrous medieval medic to take a chill pill and go back to his cell without incident? It'll be a tricky task, but it's doable. This is you versus SCP-049, the Plague Doctor. First, let's take a look at what you're up against in a physical sense. The Plague Doctor is a humanoid entity, roughly 190 centimeters or 6 foot 4 inches tall. His imposing stature is only amplified by his appearance. As the name suggests, he appears to be dressed in the thick robes, hat, and beaked mask of a medieval plague doctor. He's usually seen carrying an old-fashioned doctor's bag that seems to contain an infinite number of surgical tools. At the time of his capture, he also wielded a large cane, similar to the kind used by plague doctors to examine patients from a distance, although this cane was eventually confiscated by Foundation personnel, as is standard procedure for any possessions of anomalies that could potentially be used as weapons. Unlike many SCPs, the Plague Doctor is not only highly intelligent, but capable of being reasoned with, which is a huge point in your favor. SCP-049 speaks in a variety of languages, but his preferences are English and medieval French.
I think this will be the last chapter for tonight, though. Ooh, Infinite IKEA? Maybe 2 more. Okay, we'll stop at 20 minutes or so from now.
Particularly with scientists,
because I'm sleepy.
As fellow men of medicine.
Preference of French.
Regularly
Disgusting.
With corpses on which to perform experiments, and after he completes them, he's often eager to discuss these findings with staff. This cordial relationship makes the Plague Doctor a very manageable prisoner, but don't be fooled. His interactions with staff must be closely monitored. Due to his high intelligence as well as naturally intimidating aura, SCP-049 can be very persuasive to anyone not mentally prepared for an encounter with him. If you aren't careful, you might end up being convinced to, say, give him a human subject for his experimentation, which is strictly forbidden by his containment guidelines. Or, as was evidently the case today, he might just be able to convince you to let your guard down and let him out of containment. So the first line of defense against this SCP is to simply not give him a chance to appeal to your ego or engage you in any kind of mind games. Someone less familiar with this SCP might think that letting him out isn't a big deal. Other than being a creepy, super smart humanoid with a magic bag full of strange surgical tools, he doesn't seem actively malicious. What's the harm in giving him a bit of freedom? Well, SCP-049's polite attitude has one very important exception. If he decides a person has been infected with pestilence, he'll become incredibly aggressive toward them. Now, you've worked with the Foundation for a while, so you know the basics of how SCP-049 behaves. When SCP-049 singles you out from your team, you suspect he may have seen you exhibit some kind of symptom, but you know he's generally a creature that can be appealed to with logic. When you notice SCP-049 becoming hostile in your presence, you might try and show him your vaccination records to try and prove that you aren't suffering from any sort of pestilence. However, that's unlikely to work. You see, nobody can quite figure out the criteria that 049 has for what pestilence is, and he has so far refused to explain himself in interviews with the Foundation staff. In fact, 049 gets extremely annoyed if the subject is ever brought up, calling the Foundation doctors simple-minded amateurs for not being able to intuit what the pestilence is, or what the symptoms are. So even if you're all up to date on measles, tetanus, rabies, and hepatitis shots, and your most recent Foundation-issue COVID test came back negative, SCP-049 won't find that sufficient proof that you're pestilence-free. What does SCP-049 do to people that he decides have been infected? Well, as he does consider himself a doctor, his stated intention is to cure people, and that's good. But by curing them, we actually mean he kills them, and that's bad. SCP-049 can kill with a single touch, and Foundation personnel have yet to conclusively find out the exact cause of death in any of 049's victims. The most important rule when it comes to surviving a run-in with SCP-049 is to dress for the occasion. SCP-049 can kill anyone instantly just by touching their skin. And if that wasn't bad enough, he's also incredibly fast, able to close the distance between you and him in a matter of seconds. You're no Usain Bolt, so there's probably no way that you'll be able to outrun him. So the best way to prevent your sudden death is by wearing thick clothing that leaves as little skin exposed as possible. As a member of the science team, your lab coat and gloves should do nicely. Keeping your skin safe from unwanted toxins is, after all, what they're designed to do. Tie a scarf or something similar around your neck to protect your throat, and if possible, cover your ears and face with a beanie or a ski mask. And if you aren't already wearing them, it might be wise to change into jeans, thick socks, and closed-toed shoes. It might be tricky to track all these things down without leaving the office, but trust us, it's essential to surviving an SCP-049 containment breach. His lethal touch is so potent that any exposed skin at all will put you at risk. If you can, donning a full Foundation-issue hazmat suit definitely wouldn't be an overreaction. Before killing a person that he deems infected with pestilence, SCP-049 will begin by asking typical questions that any doctor would ask a patient about their medical history. Then, with frightening speed, he descends on his victims to deliver his lethal touch. Sometimes killing the person is enough for SCP-049 to consider them cured, but other times it doesn't have the effect that he was going for. SCP-049 will show remorse for the killing, lamenting the fact that the pestilence is still present in some way in his patient, and this is the point where his treatment gets a little more complex and a lot more weird. If you thought being instantly killed with a single touch was bad, you'll really hate hearing about what happens afterward. If the person killed by 049 is decided to still have signs of pestilence, SCP-049 will produce a variety of surgical tools from the doctor's bag that he carries and begin performing surgery.
Hey Ray, hi, how are you?
Surgery vary from
good morning.
Forceps to a variety
or I guess it's like what, 5 AM for you?
Fluids that the SCP
how are you?
The essence of the four humors.
We're watching
The four
spooky
humors,
stuff.
if you aren't aware, were a concept popular in medieval European medicine. The idea is that the body contains 4 fluids or humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile, and that an imbalance of them is what causes sickness. The idea has obviously been disproven since, but given that 049 resembles a medieval plague doctor and claims to have originated in the 15th century, it makes sense that this idea of treatment would align with medieval beliefs and theories. Once the corpse has been dissected and had its humors thoroughly equalized, a process that usually takes several days, it may then reanimate them.
Look too spooky. Yeah, the animation's not actually that bad. It's most of the story.
This doesn't always happen, but when it does, it's always bad news. Even though SCP-049...
Like, this guy isn't too bad. So this guy is like this plague doctor who's really intelligent and he seems all fine. But the moment he thinks you're infected with pestilence, he touches you, you're dead. There was a child, I know. And there was this like previous thing where there was this like creepypasta about Smile Dog. And like Smile Dog, like you see this JPEG of this smiling dog. That's a very uncanny valley. And that shit haunts your dreams. And, you know, it's kind of spooky.
Animated people to be cured. He does admit that it isn't a perfect cure, but to us it sounds like
it's just an STD, but a picture. Exactly.
SCP-049-2
spooky, I know.
Or higher brain function, and And while they're normally docile, they can become very
I'm a Senator
aggressive
Jolly.
when provoked, or
Thank you,
if
Cooper.
SCP-049 directs them to attack. While 049 obviously prefers to practice his cure on human beings, most instances of 049-2 that you would encounter in the Foundation building would be animals. SCP-049 is given animal corpses to experiment on once every 2 weeks. These animals are most frequently livestock, particularly cows, but SCP-049 also has experimented on other animals, including an orangutan that he was ultimately unable to
Spread the
revive.
word.
Though they
I like
behave in an
factual
erratic
spookiness,
and
right?
sometimes violent manner,
This has been very
049-2
interesting.
instances are, like most classic movie zombies,
Like I was,
relatively easy to put down.
ooh,
There's no evidence in
interesting.
Foundation documents to suggest that anything more than conventional weapons is required to dispatch them. Once dispatched, the corpses should be taken to be
Did you just wake up, or are you
As for
or is it a late night for you?
SCP-049 himself, while he's a terrifying and imposing figure, if you can avoid his zombified minions and deadly
BuzzFeed
touch,
Unsolved?
it's surprisingly easy to get him
Ah.
back into containment.
Maybe you could
Sedatives
watch
have
some of them as
proven to
well.
work on this
Woke up a bit ago,
SCP
I
and are
see,
part of the
gotcha,
standard
gotcha.
protocols for transporting
Well, good
them from
morning.
place to place. Getting a needle through SCP-049's thick leather-like hide may be somewhat difficult, especially under duress, so you might want to consider administering the sedative orally. SCP-049 doesn't technically require any sustenance,
morning.
but he has been seen to enjoy food and believes that eating helps him keep in the right frame of mind to practice his experiments. So, if you can bribe him with a snack, you might be able to sneak the sedatives in that way. Some of SCP-049's favorite foods include salted pork, crackers, and hard cheese. So if you can figure out how to hide a pill in any of those, go right ahead and give it a try. Additionally, tests have also shown that the application of lavender has a calming effect on this SCP, much like it sometimes does on humans. Lavender contains a
Lavender
compound
is the key,
called
guys.
linalool, a type of alcohol that can produce an
This will help me fall
anti-anxiety
back asleep.
effect when you
Ah,
take it.
okay,
The
okay.
linalool is apparently heightened
Yeah,
in the case of
well.
SCP-049 because in the
We can all
SCP's
relax
dossier,
together. Lavender,
is
right?
the
Yeah.
most recommended method for
It
subduing.
calms down.
Once he's been sedated or otherwise subdued,
A
a long
murderous
collar,
plague
restraints,
doctor.
and a pair of
It can
armed
calm
guards are
down
all
us
that's
too, you
needed to
know?
transport him back to containment.
Magic.
So if you followed all these guidelines, you'll be
Although I'm not a
perfectly
fan of
equipped to survive an
lavender,
encounter with
because I
SCP-049.
accidentally
The security
drank
team
some
is brought
lavender
in
water.
as SCP-049 is subdued and led back to his
So my mum
containment
made
cell,
this lavender
gives you
water
his
to
final
use in an
critical warning.
iron,
You're denying
like
yourself
to iron
salvation
clothes
from
with,
the one true sickness
and I
that plagues
drank
the
it
world
thinking
of
it,
men.
because she just
If
put it in
you
a
allow
regular
me to
water
advance
bottle.
my research,
I
it may
just
be
straight
too
drank
late
it,
to
and
save
it
all
was
those
so
who are
disgusting.
stricken. With those words, the
Am I a
enigmatic
murderous
and
plague
terrifying
doctor?
plague doctor is placed into
Well, hey,
restraints and escorted back to his
that's
cell,
up to you.
armed guards locking the door behind him. After this
So,
encounter,
but that was a while ago. I think I'm fine with it
encouraging
now.
further contact
But it's just, you know, when you have like a really
with staff
yucky reaction
The
to
day
something, you
continues
don't
as
like it
normal,
for a
and
while.
As soon as you clock off your shift, you decide it might be high time to organize a checkup with your regular
Good lavender to your
doctor.
lavender serpent coffee.
Lately, you've been finding the allure of
Yeah, stuff
affordable
that's made to be
Swedish flatpack
consumed,
furniture
it's
just
probably
too
great.
strong to resist.
That was
So
not.
mosey on down to your local
That was
IKEA
for like
superstore,
water and
get
lavender
yourself some
oil,
nice,
like the
sleek
essential
furniture,
oil.
and stop by the restaurant for
Yeah.
some meatballs at lunch. What could possibly go wrong?
That wasn't
Except for
great.
your way to find the perfect Klepshot
Because it's in the
wardrobe,
same
you
water
find
bottle
you've lost
as
your
like
way.
regular
Now
sparkling
you've
water,
really
and I
lost
mixed it
your
with
way. You have
rum.
no idea where you are. You might have
I had a
calculated
rum
your
lavender
store layout
cocktail.
or your own terrible
I actually drank some
direction.
pine
If it
salt.
weren't for the 7-foot
May
tall
touch
faceless
kill. Do you like
monsters
salted
in
pork,
IKEA
hot crackers, and
uniforms
cheese?
wandering around. That's because you're not just trapped in
Oh,
any old
man.
IKEA, you're trapped in SCP-3008, the Infinite IKEA. What started as a battle to not spend too much money on shopping
Well, if
units
looks
has
could
become
kill,
a battle for
you
your
know.
life and freedom. But don't worry, with our help, we can make sure your final resting place isn't an IKEA
Who wants to
Tomrefjord
find
bed.
out?
First, some important ground rules. This is going to be a little different to some of our other U versus videos because, simply put, you can't defeat or kill SCP-3008.
It's the
You can
IKEA
only
store.
or survive it. Unlike a number of battles against the frightening creatures and entities of the SCP Foundation, you won't have Foundation knowledge, personnel, resources, or weapons to help you. So, no heavily armed SWAT teams or backup Predator drones. But don't let that dishearten you. After all, you'll be in the largest IKEA known to man, so you won't have to look far to find the comforts of home or potential improvised weapons. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. After all, it doesn't matter how
Laying
many
here in bed
weapons
is
you
fucking me
have.
up. Oh
If
no.
you don't understand your enemy
You
first,
good?
an AK-47 might as well be a BB gun. SCP-3008 is technically the umbrella term for two different kinds of dangerous anomaly, both of which you'll be facing up against today, SCP-3008-1 and SCP-3008-2. SCP-3008
Oh, right.
is the specific term for the anomalous section of the story you're currently trapped in. The gateway to this particular area is always situated in a seemingly normal IKEA superstore, and its size is estimated to be anywhere between 10 square kilometers and infinity itself. Thankfully, escape from this area isn't unprecedented.
IKEA is spooky now, yeah. In this universe, they have this one IKEA where you go inside, it's like 10 kilometers big, and there are entities inside. As Cooper says, average American IKEA.
But the things that'll make it a lot harder are SCP-3008-2. Dangerous humanoid entities known to the prisoners of SCP-3008-1 as the Staff. And
The
while
Staff.
the thought of IKEA staff probably brings to mind smiling, helpful people in yellow shirts and blue pants, that thought couldn't be more wrong. Well, apart from the yellow shirts and blue pants, these things still have those. The first thing you'll likely notice about the staff inside of SCP-3008 is their freakish proportions. They're described as either being too tall or too short, so you'll have to be on the lookout above and below. The staff also tend to have long, powerful limbs with large hands that allow them to grab prey, such as yourself, at an impressive distance. They also seem to lack any kind of facial features, blood, bones, or internal organs. It seems less obvious than some of the other advantages possessed by the staff.
These are all made up.
Or numerical superiority, but the first thing they
This
have on you
is like a
psychological,
series called
as a normal and
SCP,
at least somewhat sane
which is about like a foundation that contains certain anomalies, and there's like some things that are completely harmless or even beneficial, and then some things that are like completely world-ending and crazy. And it's like the stories about like all these different like creatures and such. Yeah, anomalous entities. Yeah, they were talking about it in chat like when I was playing the game earlier. And then we were like, okay, this sounds interesting. Let's watch some lore. I made like some chicken salad. Got some lemonade. And we were just gonna chill and watch some spooky videos while winding down for bed. I'm winding down for bed at 10:30 in the morning. Got it exactly right. I mean, my stream crashed about an hour and a half ago. But before that, I was on for like, what, 8 hours? 7 hours? I don't know. My internet died, but yeah, usual Dr. Bob goes more into niche SCPs. Oh lord, yeah. So I'm kind of addicted to streaming, you know? I just love talking to you guys and hanging out.
Seeing monsters without faces
Oh,
running around
Dax,
is
tiered
likely
lemonade.
gonna be a shock to you. Even more than that, considering you're
man.
lost and disoriented, nobody could blame you for being afraid of the staff either. The problem here is that fear tends to either lead to panic or hesitation. And if one or even a few of these things are bearing down on you and you freeze up
That's
even for a
nice,
second,
yeah.
chances are that you're probably a goner. That's why stealing your nerves, keeping your wits about you,
I
and
feel like it's
cultivating a
nice like
strong
both ways
survival
around. It's like every night I got people to hang out with and people got people to hang out with. It's like I like just coming on and just hanging out and just it's just nice. I like it. And everyone is welcome.
instinct is key to survival while trapped in SCP-3008. And now some good news before you get it into your head that you won't be leaving this IKEA alive anytime soon. While the staff
I'm just
isn't
if my villain
frightened
arc, yeah.
immediately in the right circumstances, they're not in a constant attack mode.
In Roblox,
Even though
based on this SCP. Oh,
SCP-3008-1
interesting.
is entirely indoors, the automatic lighting up above simulates periods of day and night. While the staff are incredibly hostile during the nighttime periods, they're shown to be docile and unresponsive during the day. We still wouldn't recommend attempting a sneak attack on them during the day, as they've been known to react violently to attack at all times. But you can at least use the daytime periods to prepare yourself for later combat. Not only can you use this time to get used to seeing them and thus reduce your fear of them during nighttime skirmishes, you can also collect weapons, intel, and supplies while the creatures
Maybe this
are
is like
docile.
real
Then,
IKEA,
when night
right?
falls and you're ready to fight, you'll probably be happy to hear that while the creatures do wield impressive physical
Nothing
strength
during the day,
in
this
seemingly
really
unlimited
is
numbers,
IKEA.
they only have the endurance of your average human. In other words, anything that can kill you can also kill them, giving you a slightly more even playing field. This brings us to the fun part, weapons. Luckily for you, seeing as you're in a potentially limitless version of one of your largest home
Furniture
retailers
forts.
in the world, you have plenty of options for arming yourself. While grabbing enough large heavy objects to turn yourself into a Swedish flat-pack Conan the Barbarian might seem like a good idea, we personally recommend keeping it a little simpler. Having a light
My
load
30
allows
at
for
6.
speedy
What's a
movement
30 at
and
6?
maneuverability. So what could be better than the
With an
blades of
F-150 and a 30
IKEA
at 6.
knife set and
Just
a
seems
sturdy
silly.
claw hammer from the 17-piece Fix-A-Tool
It's a
kit.
hunting
While
rifle,
trying to avoid
okay,
the
I
staff
see.
at night is probably your best option. If one of them does somehow end up getting all up close and personal, it likely won't survive getting a kitchen knife rammed through its faceless skull. Thankfully, you at least have the element of stealth on your side, as the staff constantly repeat the phrase, "The store is now closed, please exit the building," while in attack mode. Even if you don't have a chance to run and hide, that'll at least give you a window to warm up your hammering arm. Of course, while being able to go toe-to-toe with the staff is definitely an essential skill if you want to survive your SCP-3008 experience, you can't afford to stop there. After all, people can spend entire years trapped inside the store, and while you can hope to be out of here a lot sooner than that, it'll probably dawn on you long before that you can't survive by eating knives and hammers. Thankfully, SCP-3008 actually has you covered there, as there appears to be multiple IKEA restaurants and food service areas where supplies are periodically restocked. This is where you'll need to restock if you don't want to starve before you even get a chance to escape. But you might think, can I really rely on this? After all, with the place as easy to get lost in as SCP-3008, might it be whole days between finding adequate food supplies? And good, that's the kind of practical thinking that'll get you out of here alive. Thankfully, you can take some extra food with you each time with the help of an IKEA Shilvaska cooling bag and some IKEA Shilklamp cold packs. This will give you some rations to keep with you during your travels and escape attempts, and it'll also give you some valuables to exchange and trade. That's right, because as luck would have it, you're far from the only one stuck in this weird Swedish mess. There are actually so many people trapped in SCP-3008 that they've essentially been able to construct an entire new civilization inside the store. Whole townships and settlements have been built and fortified entirely with IKEA furniture, full of thriving little populations doing what they can to get by in this strange new world. If you're thinking,
I see.
I've got time to make friends, I want to get out of here as soon as possible, you might as well hand yourself over to the staff now and get your mauling over with. As the old truism goes,
Silly
there's
Twitch.
safety in numbers, and even the luckiest people to escape SCP-3008 have at the very least spent a few weeks inside. In that time, unless you want to go insane or die from exhaustion, you're gonna need to sleep. If you try the lone wolf method and sleep on one of the display beds out in the open, you're extremely vulnerable to attacks from the staff while you sleep. But if you manage to get yourself into one of the human settlements inside SCP-3008 and start making some friends, you'll have the benefit of cover while you rest and sleep, so long as you're willing to help return the favor from time to time. People holed up in these fortified settlements have observed that at least a few nights each week, the staff are likely to swarm and attack said settlements in large numbers. When that happens, if you want to survive, you're gonna need to
This
help
is
your human
literally
allies
just
hold the line
IKEA.
against the oncoming horde of faceless monsters by any means necessary. And after each battle, you'll need to help your new friends haul the staff corpses to elsewhere in the store. Detecting even part of one of their own in your settlement's proximity can cause them to frenzy and launch even more brutal attacks, which, as someone who wants to survive,
How smart are the staff?
you really don't want.
Like, are they just going to be like, or are they going to actually use like weapons and tactics?
Or
are they just like zombies?
Actually escaping the place. As we stated before, while it isn't easy, it can be done. You just need to be both persistent and tactical about it. First of all, it's best to communicate with some of your fellow humans trapped inside SCP-3008 to see if any of them can recall any memorable details.
Gargoyle struck. Would you guys know?
Another key marker in attempting to escape this place is SCP Foundation drones. The Foundation has been using remote-controlled recon drones to explore the interior of SCP-3008 and tracking the movements and directions of these drones.
It's low intelligence hive mind. Okay, okay.
Finally, it's
So
time
this
to
is
put boots
soap
on the
opera
ground and
filmed
actually
inside
find your way
IKEA?
to one of the
No
exits.
way.
It would be productive to team up with
That's
some trusted
wild.
humans and form an expeditionary party, allowing you to collectively carry more supplies and defend one another if night falls and you're left vulnerable to attacks from the staff. But in a place that could potentially be infinite, and in a store with as confusing layout as an IKEA, how can you be sure you're not just walking around in circles? Simple. All you need to do is get your hands on plenty of IKEA Behandla black glazing paint and some IKEA Fix-A-Paint.
Gonna try this out. I mean, hey, I'm down.
Down each aisle you explore, you suddenly have a route that you can both
Which
double
IKEA
back
are we
on
meeting in,
to settle
guys?
if necessary, and ensure you won't be going in circles. Almost like
This
the
is more
classic
this
Hansel and
convincing
Gretel
me.
breadcrumb trail, you can perform more expeditions every day, pushing out a little further each time, covering and marking out
Let's
more
group
ground.
up.
And if you follow
Let's
the
try and
recipe
take over
instructions, you'll
IKEA.
stay well-fed, well-rested, and survive the
And
staff.
they're gonna
Maybe
arrest
even
us all
make
for
some
being
friends, but most
schizophrenic.
importantly, you'll have a much higher
This
chance
is
of
me
finally
waiting for
escaping
my
this
mom to
black-hat nightmare.
finish
When that
shopping.
eventually does happen, you and your party will likely be greeted, detained, and debriefed by some SCP Foundation field operatives. Once you've delivered all relevant information over to them, you'll be given SCP Foundation amnestics and be made to forget the whole thing ever happened.
I did just loll in bed. Amazing.
Under-furnished room safe and sound, with nothing but a
See,
lingering
sometimes
thought
it's
that it might
accurate,
just
you
be
know?
better to do all your furniture shopping online in the future. It's never easy being the new guy. You keep forgetting people's names. You still need to get to grips with office politics, and the senior staff keep eating your pudding cups out of the office fridge, even though they were clearly labeled.
Sometimes
with
it's wicked cock. We back. Hi, hello. Let's go. Everyone, hello, hi, refresh. Let me know when you're back. He didn't die this time, I know. Crazy. Yeah. Okay. We're here, lovely. Cooper, by the way, you can also use like the emote, the yikes one, because what the 912 makes no sense to mobile users. But it's an emote on the channel, so mobile users can see that one. My face is so stupid in that one. Tell mobile users to stop being L. Yeah, that was just me catering towards Ray, I guess.
As a humble research assistant, you feel like you're basically one rung above D class. You're itching for a chance to prove your mettle and climb the ranks, and lucky for you, you're about to get that chance. Okay, well, lucky may be a funny way of putting it. You were so wrapped
You're
up in
welcome.
warning the pudding cup that you're pretty sure you saw Dr.
I forgot it was a channel
earlier
emote.
that day that you didn't even notice the alarms for a containment breach going off. You also barely registered the faint hiss like a chemical burn as a black scorch mark began to spread across the wall behind you. It's only when you can smell the unmistakable stench of rotting human flesh that you put down your empty pudding cup and turn to see something horrifying standing right behind you. It's the yellow-toothed grin of a decaying old man oozing his way through the wall. That's right. You're face to face with SCP-106. One of two things can happen right now. Uncle Larry here can grab you with his dirty
Is this on my laptop or do I use it? Okay, so what I demoed earlier, and Cooper was just like, Lamau, just be better for some reason. So, if you're on a phone, what you can do is, okay, let me just connect my phone, I can just show. For some reason, yeah. I mean, if you don't want to do the superior option, then, well, that's on you. Okay, right, so I got my phone. So this is an app that you can use on mobile. And am I offline again? Fuck. Hi, are we here? Are we good? My thing just went connecting to chat. Are we good? Right. So, we can hear you lovely. So there's this app called Chatson. I can still see it, right, which you can use on phone. And then you can type whatever you want. Like, let's see, LOL, right? And now, see, LOL appears. And now you can use that. So what I do when I'm on mobile is I will pop the window out, right? Like I go here, I get the stream, pop the window out, open Chatson, make the thing bigger, and there we go. Now I can chat and have all the emotes. Like, this one is so stupid, but we made it the other day. The Gorlock arrive. It's just this chunky enemy from a game walking very slowly towards us. That's our Gorlock arrive. Oh my god, nothing's it again. Wicked cock. Okay, there we go. Right, we should be good now. Hi, hello. But yeah, it's a nice little app. It's called Floor. It's called Chatson. It's a nice one. So yeah, if you don't want to be on your laptop and you just want to watch on your phone, then you can just do it with Chatson. That's what I do. Whenever my internet just decides to die, and I have to message to stream being like, internet died, I'll be back whenever it's back, kind of thing. That's blue. 'Cause blue looks good on the sky. Da, 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 da.
That would make Pinhead from Hellraiser blush, or you can think fast, remember your foundation training, survive the night, and perhaps even help your coworkers get this wall-walking monster back into containment. Then you might finally get the respect you deserve around here. You swallow your fear, steel your nerves, and try to recall everything they taught you about this creep during orientation. Keep your wits about you, and keep your eyes on the walls. This is you versus SCP-106, aka the Old Man. Theoretically, you have all the knowledge you need to survive this containment breach. But while we were reading the intro, the Old Man managed to fully seep in through the walls, and now he's heading right for you. Our first piece of advice is to turn tail and run like hell, putting some major distance between you and him. SCP-106 has proven pretty much immune to all physical damage. So even if you're packing knives, guns, and a Bruce Lee level of combat efficacy, it's better to just not engage. Despite this appearance as a frail old man who'd been left dead in a ditch for 2 months, this creature is incredibly strong. He's dealt out massive physical trauma to victims in a matter of seconds once he's gotten his hands on them, and what comes after is even worse. But we'll get to that later. For now, you run out of the room and bolt around a corner. You realize security has probably been deployed elsewhere, and just hope that they can get to you in time. Though seeing as SCP-106 can shrug off machine gun fire like spitballs, they're probably more the illusion of security than the real thing. In fact, you don't even bother closing the doors behind you as you run, because it's not like this thing even uses doors. There's almost no physical barrier that can keep the Old Man from getting his hands on his favorite prey: terrified running humans. For example, you. While you're putting the pedal to the metal and trying to get away from this sadistic freak as quickly as possible, here's a little background on what you're up against. SCP-106 is an extremely dangerous Keter-class anomaly that's operated as far back as World War I, when he's believed to have been created. For the uninitiated, the Keter class is reserved for the anomalies that are exceptionally hard to contain and require complex and extensive methods to do so, and SCP-106 earns that classification with its truly exceptional skills as an escape artist. It's believed to be capable of, if given enough time, passing through any form of solid matter. Doors? No problem. Walls? Forget about it. Think even a 10-foot thick brick of concrete can keep him away? You're in for a world of pain, my friend. In terms of its ability to walk through solid matter, there are only 3 things that may work to your advantage here. Tests on SCP-106 have shown that it has a certain aversion to lead. Lead won't hurt it or entirely stop it, but it'll slow him down for long enough to formulate a plan of action. SCP-106 also appears to become confused when it's required to pass through more complex physical structures. For example,
Wicked
it would be far
cock.
easier to pass through a simple wall
Right?
than,
I
say, a
know.
car, where there's a variety
Did you get
of
Chatson
shapes
set
and
up?
materials at play. The Old Man has
So much
also
better.
shown pronounced aversion to liquid,
Plus then you could have
which
multiple
also
chats
causes
set
it
up
to
at
become
once.
confused. It's for all these reasons that its containment area is comprised of 16 spherical
chance,
cells,
let's
each
go.
filled with various fluids and a random assembly of surfaces and supports to keep the capricious Old Man too confused to attempt regular containment breaches. 106 is an ambush predator at heart, sometimes waiting completely motionless months at a time. But it only needs a few key seconds to turn the tables on its captors. Its attacks are most likely to occur just after the people observing it let their guard down. Again, we have to reiterate, there's no way you can fight this creature. You have to play defensive, or you'll end up as a plaything to one of the most sadistic creatures under the Foundation's lock and key. Despite its rotted appearance, the Old Man is no mindless zombie. He's one of the more intelligent and cunning creatures you'd be unlucky to run afoul of while working on a Foundation containment site. There's a killer instinct behind those black shark-like eyes and that toothy, lipless grin. Before you're ready to survive this nightmare, you need to first understand all the numerous ways the old man can murder you. As we mentioned before, while the old man isn't exactly a martial artist in the agility department, he is freakishly strong. If the old man catches you in his deathly tight grip, there's probably no saving you. He'll likely tenderize your body and incapacitate you by attacking major organs, muscle groups, and tendons. We wouldn't advise screaming for help as he does this, because you'll probably just excite him. After all, SCP-106 doesn't hunt out of hunger. We haven't even seen the creature eat. 106 hunts because of desire, and that desire is to cause maximum pain and suffering in his victims. His entire body is also covered in a kind of powerful, corrosive mucus that can be dangerous to both objects and organic tissue, and the burning caused by said acidic mucus won't abate until around 6 hours after first contact. So even touching SCP-106 is a huge no-no if you want to get out of this containment breach intact. But the horror won't
This is
end there.
better. Okay,
No, once you're in
good.
his clutches, it's just the beginning of your terrible ordeal.
Except
Once you've
how
been
nice it
sufficiently
is to be able to use
you'll see
emotes.
that the old man is sinking back through the wall and taking you with him. And I'm sorry to say
Now you can
that
up
where
your
you're
game
going isn't just the other side
so
of the
much
wall.
more.
You're being dragged into the old man's pocket dimension. This is SCP-106's lair, a little universe of endless dark corridors where he has absolute control. And if you're in there and somehow watching this video on otherworldly 5G, then I'm afraid it's probably already too late for you. In the pocket dimension, 106 has total mastery over space-time.
Weak.
You can be trapped, hunted, and tortured for what feels
SMH,
like
people
centuries
holding
on
out for
end.
like no
If it's
reason.
feeling particularly cruel or bored,
Supporting
it
the
might let you
Twitch
go
app.
for a little while just to hunt you down and trap you again. People who have finally been released from the pocket dimension are often dead or on the edge of death, heavily mutilated with their faces locked into a final agonized scream. The only consolation for any of these people is that they probably lost their minds long before they died. To
Damn.
SCP-106, it's all just a sick, twisted little game. If you want to survive, you can't play his game. The old man wants to be entertained by your fear and suffering, so if you scream and flail and panic, you're just gonna encourage him. As hard as it is, you need to adopt a steely calm if you want to maximize your chances of surviving the breach. As you run from him, try to stay in the absolute middle of the hallway. When the old man enters his pocket dimension, which must always be against a solid surface, he can re-emerge from any point connected to the initial entrance.
I actually see the
In other
emotes now,
words, he
right?
emerges
Let's
from
go.
one end of a long hallway and instantaneously
Wonderful.
appear on the other end, cutting you off. You're not even immune to attacks from above, as SCP-106 is able to walk across the ceiling for an indefinite period of time. Being 100% aware of everything around you at all times is the only
Even
way
if
to
like 2
ensure your
FPS.
survival.
Yeah,
You
the
can't
60
get out of the
FPS
narrow
ones run like
corridors of
half
the
speed,
Foundation's hallways
so
and
the
find your way
Golok
into a more
arrive is
open
even
area with high
slower.
ceilings as soon as possible. 106 is less likely to head you off there, and if you can maintain vigilance, you'll be able to see him
Bro.
coming and get a head start. Of course, you can't run
But that's
forever,
just like a
and the
mobile
patient
thing. I don't know why
old
they
man
don't
is
like emotes
positively
above
counting
like
on
25
that. Your next
FPS.
mission will be to
on
rendezvous
mobile.
with your colleagues and commence the grisly containment procedures, but that's not so easy with 106 on your tail. One proven method of buying time against the monster is exposing it to extremely bright light. While once
Made
again,
it
this light
long
does not
emote.
cause 106 any actual harm, it may startle the
I know,
creature and
Golok
cause it to
be
retreat
arriving
back into the
very
pocket dimension. When the old man is hiding, that's when you have a golden opportunity to
Oh,
grab a
dude.
member of D-Class personnel and drag them into the vacant containment chamber. What comes next isn't pretty, but it's the only tried and true method of getting this thing back into containment. So you may need to leave your morals and empathy at the door. While 106 is still
Here it is.
distracted, you'll need to subdue the D-Class and set up a direct feed to the building's intercom. The Foundation has found that the best way to lure the old man back into containment is with the prospect of causing more suffering. In order to do this, you essentially need to torture the D-Class until they scream into the microphone, showing a certain rotting, grinning sadist that there's fun to be had back in the containment chamber. It's recommended that you mutilate the D-Class at intervals of 20 minutes in order to give the old man enough time to hear the screams and estimate the location of their source. Not a natural-born torturer? Don't worry. If you don't like the idea of slashing a man's tendons yourself, you can make use of a special hydraulic press they keep on site, lovingly nicknamed the Femur Breaker, to wring some screams out of your unfortunate D-Class. Once the screaming begins, it's time to vacate the area and wait. When inevitably SCP-106 returns to enjoy the little treat you left for him, it's time to seal the containment behind him. The screams of the D-Class you sacrificed might haunt you until your dying day, but at least your dying day won't be today, thanks to the tips and techniques you've learned here. Thanks to your excellent handling of the latest containment breach, you might be lucky enough to find yourself promoted from assistant to junior researcher, meaning you'll be spending even more time with charming little creatures like SCP-106. So
Just raise my leg, Chach.
in mind. After all, you may be meeting them again real soon. It's impossible to read the news now without hearing about viruses. As one pandemic runs its course, there are menacing headlines about others possibly cropping up. But as you browse the internet, you may come across people talking about something called
Dude, the
X
porn
virus.
D-classes, they just get the
Is this
short end of the
deadly
stick
plague
every
making its way
time.
Over from unknown quarters? No.
And they're
X
all
virus
matching a
isn't
D-class into
virus
the
at
female
all,
bracket.
but it
Yeah.
may be no less terrifying.
Is this the
No one
NordVPN
knows where
rate, right?
X virus came from, but he introduced himself to us in a short story that began circulating around the internet. But the strange thing is, X virus doesn't seem creepy at first. He is a little boy. One who had a rough life and maybe, just maybe, will finally find
I
a friend
see.
he needs. Sounds cheery enough, right? Why has
Mhm.
X-Virus captured the attention of creepypasta fans everywhere? And could he have
Well, that's a
ties
little
to
bit
one of
better.
the most notorious monsters in
Instead of
internet
just, you know,
history?
fucking, like,
X-Virus
science
wants you to know
interns or
his story.
something.
He started out as a
Right.
boy named Cody, and he
Okay.
describes himself as an unwanted kid.
Imagine they're
He
just
never knew his
interns, you know,
father,
working their
who
way
likely
up,
abandoned
trying
the
to
family.
become, like,
But
the
at least he had
C-class
his
or
mother,
whatever.
right? Wrong. His mother was a career criminal.
Show
and was
them
hardly
my
fit for raising a child. She would go out to commit crimes. The younger Cody
Oh,
never
man.
described what they were and left Cody alone. He would sit at home waiting for her to come back, sometimes days, but eventually even weeks at a time alone. Cody never had any friends, and being alone was a way of life for him, until one day there was a knock on the door. It was a social worker. Would things start looking up for Cody? It was clear to the social worker that Cody's mother wasn't fit to take care of him, and so he went into the custody of the state. They took Cody to a group home where he hoped he would be able to start fresh, far away from his traumatic upbringing. He even looked forward to making some friends, but it wasn't to be. From the moment Cody arrived at the orphanage, everything went wrong. He was ostracized by the other kids and felt intimidated by them. He was too scared to talk to anyone, so he just sat on a chair and stared at them. It was just like being in his old home. Although he was surrounded by people now, he was still alone. Then one day, he was told to pack by the people at the orphanage. Where was he going now? For once, it didn't seem like bad news. Cody was going to be adopted. He was surprised, as parents usually favored younger kids, and he was already 13 years old. He thought of himself as a weirdo and couldn't believe a set of parents wanted him. But the adoption papers were signed and he was taken away to meet his new family. And when he approached his new home, he couldn't believe his eyes. It was a mansion, the biggest home he had ever seen. But all wasn't as it seemed inside of Cody's new home. Cody was given his own room, much nicer than one he'd ever had, but once more was living all alone. Then one day he was introduced to the man who adopted him. He was a scientist, the head of a
Amazing.
major laboratory specializing in microbiology. He studied the behavior of dangerous viruses, and his job kept him very busy. He wouldn't be spending much time at home, and
No, I
Cody
mean, whatever
immediately
works for
worried that
you.
he would be just left alone
I
like
just
he
wanted to
had been with his
showcase
mother. Cody would
the
do anything
superior
to keep
way
that from happening
to
again,
mobile
so he tried to win
Twitch.
his new father's favor.
Even though I
Expressed
never mobile
interest
Twitch,
in
I'd rather
science
just use my
work and
laptop.
volunteered to help him with the work in the lab. Soon, Cody's adoptive father began opening up to him, explaining to the curious boy what his work was about and how dangerous a virus could be. Cody was about to find out firsthand. Cody had a chance at a normal life, going to school with other kids, but his
Balls.
social troubles continued. He
That's
never
fair.
fit in and preferred to spend his time in the adopted father's lab. He started keeping
Yeah.
a work journal where he kept his personal sketches and formulas. The years went on, and by the time Cody was 17, he was an expert in viruses. But his father kept a close eye on him and never let him experiment on his own, only allowing him to assist in planned tests. But Cody was getting more and more curious. He decided it was time to start his own experiments. Cody had designed his own custom viruses and compounds, and he wanted to know what they would do when injected into a living being. So he started gathering test subjects, mostly rats and other small animals. He would inject them and they would die soon after, confirming how dangerous the viruses he used were. But it was how they died that intrigued Cody the most. In the moment before death, they would let out a horrible high-pitched noise, almost like their lungs were about to explode. Cody wondered what caused this. He wondered what noise a human would make if it happened to them. Cody started thinking about how he could find out. He didn't have any friends at school. When he talked to the kids about his work with viruses, they were disturbed and stopped talking to him. He knew he would have to act alone, so Cody waited until his father was away. He took a lethal virus and filled up a syringe with it. He was going hunting, but he knew he couldn't let himself be seen. He needed to disguise himself. And so Cody disappeared, and something new and terrible was born. He dressed in a black jacket and jeans and took his old baseball bat out of the basement. Finding a jar with rusty nails in it, he nailed them into the bat, turning it into a deadly weapon. Finally, he put on an old gas mask and a pair of protective goggles. He was ready to kill and went to a neighborhood very different from his own. It was full of old, run-down houses, very much like the one he grew up in. He wasn't looking for anyone in particular. Any old house would do, as long as there was someone alive inside. He kicked down the door and the horror was about to begin.
Dude, this is just the average schizo-American hunting down the, local crackheads.
Cody swung like a professional, targeting people one by one in his murder spree. They weren't expecting an attack, and no one in the house stood a chance. Finally, there was only one left, a middle-aged man who Cody tied up. As soon as the man was trapped,
This
Cody
is
injected him
just
with the
my
virus
uncle.
and watched, waiting for his darkest questions to be answered. First, the man stayed still, terrified. Then he started groaning louder and louder. He sounded like an animal as he moaned, the life leaving him, until he fell on the floor dead. Cody had his answer, and he knew he couldn't stop now. But he'd been discovered. Cody's adopted father was waiting for him, angry that his son had snuck out. But Cody wasn't worried. His father was a scientist just like him. He would understand, right? Cody opened up to his father, explaining about his experiments and how he had finally lived his dream of snuffing out a human life. He was excited. Maybe he and his father would work together on more experiments like this. But his father was horrified. He couldn't believe what his son had become, and he looked at Cody with the same look of disgust Cody had seen from his classmates so many times. He knew what he had to do. Call the police. It was the last move he would ever make. Cody leaped up and smashed his father's head with a deadly bat, killing him quickly. He took his father's ID badge for the lab and ran. He knew what he was looking for, supplies that could help him live his passion. He took as many samples of deadly viruses as he could, along with enough syringes to hold them all. He knew he had to run, but the lure of that dingy old neighborhood was calling him. He wanted to test out his new wares on some unexpected victims. One by one, he paid a visit to different homes and watched as people died horribly. The police would have heard about this by now, and Cody knew he had to hide. He went into the woods where he thought he'd be alone, but he wasn't. He wasn't even the only strange boy in these woods. Then, one day, a figure approached him wearing orange glasses and what looked like a muzzle. While Cody carried a bat with nails, this new boy carried a pair of axes. They viewed each other cautiously, but eventually the new boy approached Cody. He told Cody he didn't need to fear him and introduced himself as Toby. As Toby asked him his name, Cody knew he had found a friend, even a blood brother for the first time. And he also knew that it was time for a new name that reflected what he had become, X-Virus. Who is Toby? And are there two serial killer kids out
Oh, this guy's just a creepypasta. But I feel like that's even worse. It's like the last creepypasta was like the smile dog. And the smile dog was like spooky. This is just some really fucking edgy kid. Man was like, I'm not Cody, I'm X-Virus. Fear me, crackheads.
out there
Just a schizo boy targeting crackheads, dude.
tormenting people with axes, spiked bats, and deadly viruses? Well, we hope not. But as for who X-Virus's new friend is, that's a complicated question in itself. X-Virus isn't just a creepypasta, he's part of a crossover. Toby, or Tiki Toby as he's better known, is one of the more famous
You stole my
creepypastas himself.
veggie.
Another boy with a dark past who had dealt with abusive parents and trauma from a car crash, he eventually became a killer himself. He was presumed dead in a fire, but the truth was more complicated because Toby had become a proxy killer for one of the most notorious internet monsters of all time, Slender Man. A gangly, white-skinned monster wearing a black suit, he's notorious for stalking and abducting people and has appeared in hundreds of works of fiction. He even had a video game and a movie based around him. But he's all fiction, right? Well, that depends on how you look at it. Slenderman is so popular that while the original creature may have been a work of fiction by Something Awful forum user Eric Knudsen, he's taken on a life of his own. Photoshopped pictures tie him to real-life abduction. The mythology is spread to unaware teenagers, and real crimes have occurred because of his legend. In Wisconsin, 2 preteen girls attempted to murder their friend as a sacrifice to Slender Man. The victim,
Bruh.
Peyton Lettner, survived, and both her attackers were sent to mental institutions. Unlike most creepypastas, Slender Man almost had a body count. The would-be killers were just children, just like X-Virus and Tiki Toby. But where did X-Virus come from? That's a complicated question. Like many creepypastas, there's no obvious source, and most people read X-Virus's manifesto when it was reposted on the internet by random people. The original story can be traced to Spanish-speaking artist Mama Porcupine, who initially posted it on her Twitter and drew fan art of X-Virus and Tiki Toby on DeviantArt. But the characters have taken on a life of their own, with hundreds of stories about them written by other creators and posted around the internet. X-Virus may have originated as just a random scary story, but he spread regardless of the creator's plans, just like a virus. You've finally done it. Your greatest desire, your lifelong dream, has finally
DeviantArt.
You've gotten yourself a job at Paws Inc., the company that owns the iconic...
Is this the NordVPN sponsor?
Right. It's your job to make sure that America's favorite lazy orange cat still reaches his adoring fans every single day. But before you get too excited, being this close to the process behind Garfield's creation puts you squarely in the sights of SCP-3166. Because here's the thing, while Garfield has always been an iconic piece of American pop culture since Jim Davis created him in 1976, his popularity and profitability really aren't what they used to be. And that's exactly when you, as a Garfield-loving intern, are in the most danger. That's because SCP-3166 is a nightmarish pataphysical entity that manifests and stalks people involved in the Garfield media empire whenever the franchise isn't doing so well in the public eye. And that's why you are in terrible danger. Because when SCP-3166 gets its hands on you, you're in for a pretty terrible death. But never fear, Garfield may hate Mondays, but that doesn't mean he's going to be able to ruin yours. We're here to give you the tips, tricks, and tactics to battle the lasagna cat to the death and still come out swinging. Or at least stay alive long enough for agents from the SCP Foundation to swoop in and save you. Welcome to You vs. SCP-3166. You know the drill around here, folks. You can't fight what you can't understand. While this huge orange monster might be reminiscent of your favorite lethargic feline, if you underestimate it, you're liable to be found pounded to a pulp or choking on a mouthful of cold pasta. At face value, the creature seems to be an extremely low-effort, 7-foot-tall Garfield cosplayer with a ragged orange suit that's made from actual cat fur. However, this isn't so much a suit as it is the creature's actual skin, and on the inside it's lasagna all the way down. The creature has no bone structure, making it basically immune to most forms of blunt force trauma. Like many of the anomalous creatures dealt with by the Foundation, SCP-3166 shouldn't logically be able to do anything that it does. You're dealing with a being here that does not follow the basic
No
laws of
bones,
biology.
only lasagna.
To make matters more disgusting, it's been found that the meat within SCP-3166's lasagna is genetically identical to the flesh of Garfield creator Jim Davis. So, in a sense, this horrific orange abomination is a child of Mr. Davis, much like the original Garfield was his brainchild. Why is all this relevant to a combat situation involving SCP-3166? Allow us to school you in a little Combat 101. A real fight is never a purely logical affair, and oftentimes in the heat of the moment, good situational awareness and psychological preparation will win out over a solid battle plan. When you see this towering Garfield-esque nightmare shambling toward you in the dark, your first reaction is going to be fear. You've never seen anything like this. You might even freeze while you're trying to process it all and lose valuable seconds that can be spent running away. And that, right there, is SCP-3166's first advantage against you. Its frightening and disgusting appearance is likely to instill a sense of psychological terror, which is something you can't use back against a mindless monster. Being aware of what you're dealing with in a situation like this can make all the difference between life and death. However, elements of this can also work in your favor. Another rule of combat is that every advantage comes with its own disadvantage and vice versa. Do you know what you get when you fuse rotting pasta with real damp cat fur? One real nasty stink. While you could make the argument that going on the stank offensive would improve its fighting chances by distracting you, it also serves as an advanced warning system for when SCP-3166 is approaching. When you suddenly get a whiff of the most noxious wet cat and meat stench that you've smelled in your life, you know it's time to enter fight or flight mode. But you might not always be that lucky. One of the most dangerous aspects of SCP-3166 is its ability to manifest near its targets from thin air, and then demanifest when its deadly work is done. That means it can appear right behind you at any time, ready to strike. So you'll need to maintain constant vigilance if you want to survive a potential encounter and prevent it from getting its big, meaty paws on you. You're probably wondering,
Right.
what would a close encounter with SCP-3166 actually look like? Compared to some of the more complex and
very good
metaphysical attacks
point.
of its fellow SCPs, there's a kind of brutal but effective simplicity to SCP-3166's attacks. Its main form of offense is grabbing a nearby heavy object and bludgeoning you to death with it, all while making meowing, purring, and screeching noises like an extremely agitated cat. Obviously, nobody wants to have their head bashed in with a commemorative Garfield snow globe, but the most upsetting way this creature dispatches its victims is by disemboweling itself and forcing fistfuls of lasagna down your helpless throat until you choke to death or die from overfeeding. This would be a disgusting way to go even with normal lasagna, but with Jim Davis flesh lasagna, it's a special kind of torture that would make almost any other form of death seem preferable. But don't let this frighten you, because remember, being frightened is the first step to losing your edge. Just take the threat of being beaten or force-fed to death as motivation to never lose the upper hand. Now that you understand what you're up against, let's talk strategies for survival and maybe
Well, it tastes like
defeating this
dude
lasagna
meat,
filled
but like
menace. The first option is the
it's
simple
lasagna
run.
made from
Looking
human
in
meat.
The second you see a grim mess of orange fur lumbering toward you might seem like the coward's way out, but it's better to be cowardly than dead. While the creature definitely has a clear size advantage on you, it comes with a drawback of lowering its speed. If you manage to spot or smell it approaching and you've been keeping up with your cardio at the gym, you can turn tail and run for it. If you manage to survive for long enough on evasive tactics alone, then maybe some SCP Foundation field agents will mobilize in time and take care of the threat for you. You'll probably even get some sweet amnestics out of the deal, so the lingering trauma of your
I see.
SCP-3166 incident won't hang over you until your dying days. However, running isn't always a luxury you can afford. What if SCP-3166 manifested in your home in the middle of the night, leaving you with nowhere to run? At that point, taking the fight to him is the only option, unless you want to die a horrific and carby death. But how do you fight a giant homicidal Garfield creature? We know that you can't use blunt force trauma because the lasagna cat has no bones to break. But what about bladed weapons? Could you take down this creature with knives and swords? The idea of going Kill Bill on SCP-3166 is definitely appealing, but aside from the potential value of removing limbs to slow the creature down, this method might not be as helpful as one would hope. We know the creature is able to disembowel itself in order to pull out its Jim Davis lasagna innards and force feed people, so it stands to reason that you jumping the gun and doing the disemboweling yourself might not be an effective method of putting this thing down. If blades and heavy blunt objects are ineffective weapons, how about we try something a little more modern? That's right. We're talking firearms. A few important notes. SCP-3166 has no blood, and therefore the intention should not be to fatally wound and let it bleed out. Such a thing isn't possible. What you need is a gun that can do massive structural damage and maybe incapacitate or at least slow down the creature. Because of this, small caliber pistols and rifles are out. Personally, we'd recommend shouldering a powerful shotgun in your battle against SCP-3166, the kind that could comfortably splatter a leg into saucy paste and slow the monster's otherwise relentless pursuit. Also, while there's no way we can guarantee that this would really make a difference, there's rarely any harm in going for the classic headshot. Even if this isn't the most effective attack in the world, splattering this thing's head all over the walls would at least be a pretty satisfying gesture. If you can pump enough rounds into 3166 to at least slow it to a crawl, you can run away at a more leisurely pace rather than a terrified sprint. However, guns aren't always readily available or easy to access. What if you need an alternative method for bringing down this monster? To quote an old internet proverb, kill it with fire. It's a weapon that both cats and lasagna are
Yo,
vulnerable
River,
to.
what's up?
Provided,
How are
of
you?
course, you're not inside your own home or
Welcome.
surrounded by flammable objects, it's likely that dousing the beast in gasoline and tossing a match would reduce it to cinders. And considering all the lasagna you'd be burning in the process, it might even smell a little nice.
Not
Just try to
Garfield.
forget that it's technically burning human flesh you're smelling there.
Dude.
But what if you're really unlucky and this thing just walks out of the fire?
Spooky
dripping
Garfield is
saucy
something.
roast beef, but very
It
much
force
alive.
feeds
Kinda
you
like
its
an
own
Italian
insides,
cuisine.
and its
Thankfully,
insides
all
are all
remembered to
lasagna.
3166 at bay fail. There is one fail-safe maneuver for distracting this SCP. that
Just
has been
have it
tried
be
and tested
Monday.
by Foundation personnel. As with many things in life, sometimes you need to look within to find the answers. Except this time you're not looking within yourself, you're looking within the enemy. Much like the gluttonous orange cat from which it takes its form, SCP-3166 has one weakness: lasagna. Since the majority
Lasagna
of its
made with
biomass consists of the
meat.
cheesy
Yep.
pasta staple, anytime other sources of lasagna are placed nearby, the creature cannot help but seek it out to integrate
That
it
sounds
into its own
nice. Oh
body.
wait, never mind.
Therefore, strategically placed
The
distraction
lasagna is
lasagnas
made
are
of human
one
meat.
dependable method of keeping the beast off your tail for long enough to ensure a speedy escape. And from what we've been able to tell,
And it'd be good if it didn't
lasagna
force feed you
doesn't
to
matter.
death.
So stock up
If
on
it
a
just
few
came
dozen
up to give you some
99-cent
lasagna, that'd be
microwave
great.
lasagnas, and you might just survive long enough for an SCP Foundation mobile task force to swoop in and
I
take
mean,
this
hey.
entire problem off your hands. Once the SCP Foundation's there, the anomaly will be apprehended and dispatched, and you'll be given a comforting dose of
That's
amnesics
disgusting.
to help you forget this whole nasty
Cannibals in chat.
You'll be able to pick up
Hey,
where you
yo.
left off in your fabulous new job at pausing, making sure America gets its daily Garfield fix no matter what. Except now, when you see the grinning orange feline,
Hey, Jack.
you can't
Good
help but feel
morning.
a twitch in your eye.
Hope you're doing
You have
well.
no idea why, but I wouldn't worry about it. After all, what you don't know can't hurt you. A young man sits in his bedroom late at night.
See you
his
up.
glum
Yeah,
face illuminated by the light
I'm
of
just still
computer
up.
screen. Man, he feels
Dying
bored.
of regular
Sitting
lasagna
there
death
scrolling
doesn't
through
sound too
social
bad.
media posts that
Right?
detail his
Yeah.
friends' allegedly
I love
perfect
ricotta
lives.
cheese.
He's going with
Mmm.
politics and left and right.
I can
and
imagine just
everything
being
that's wrong
90
in
and being
every
like, yeah, okay, this is my time.
And then
I'ma
he
just
finds
eat as
a
much
video
lasagna
waiting
as I
designed
can,
and produced by the
and then peace
infographic
out,
show.
you know?
It's a list of the scariest and creepy
That's not a
pastas
bad
on the
way.
internet. What will this young man learn as he's
Is that
listening to this
Caulfield?
gripping list of well-told lies?
What it was?
He'll learn that there are some utterly frightening and disturbing stories out there, tales that lie like bloodied, broken car wrecks on the information superhighway. Number 10, Jeff the Killer. Okay, so some
Are you just trying to be
creepypasta
edgy,
fans
or
will be
are
thinking, "Come
you
on,
serious
Jeff the Killer
here?"
deserves to be higher than number 10.
Caulfield,
Well, we
right?
do think it's good. It's deranged. It's creepy enough for sure, but we also think there are better stories out there. The rest of you will be thinking, who the hell's Jeff the Killer? Good question. Let us explain. Jeff the Killer is a kid with an annoying mom who's likely got a bad case of narcissistic personality disorder. Jeff has his own mental problems too, and it doesn't take very long for the story to show them off. He has a fight, and you might say that Jeff goes a bit overboard with the violence thing.
Oh
He
god,
protects his
that just
brother from
reminded me, Ray, like the first time we ever like watched a movie together, I went and I don't know why that was the first thing that came to mind. I showed you the movie Fresh. Remember that? Was that the first or was Kingsman the first? Actually, I can't remember now. I think Fresh was the first one like we watched together. And that was just a movie about fucking cannibals. Yeah, that was a great choice. I remember that now. Oh, dude.
From some kids who live on the street Jeff's family just moved on to. Jeff is evidently a bit messed up from his mom and pop, and he doesn't seem to have embraced the family move. On top of that,
Oh,
he's got
man,
these small,
that was wild.
trance-like psychosexual episodes described simply as a weird feeling. He beats up those kids on the block while waiting
Oh,
at a bus
man.
stop. He does this with aplomb, easily taking out a stereotypically cool kid, fat kid, and thin kid, and nerdy kid. Young Jeff breaks their bones and uses a knife he's taken off one of the kids, all in a morning's work in this white picket fence neighborhood. Jeff's brother takes the blame for the vicious beating. He gets carted off to prison and the family deals with it so well they're at a party not long after.
Jack
His
is
mom
data.
is so unaffected by
Jack
losing
the
his
Killer?
son to prison she almost seems perverse. She waltzes into Jeff's bedroom
Or
one day
Jeff.
and announces to him that it's party time. That said party is full of overbearing, to Jeff, alcoholic parents. Jeff retreats to the garden, but doesn't find much solace in there since it's full of small kids, one with a speech impediment. Believe it or not,
Damn.
the gang that Jeff single-handedly broke to pieces shows up in the garden. What ensues is an end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood-style beatdown in which Jeff yet again proves that he's good with his hands. Guns are pulled. Yeah, those little school kids are armed and ready to shoot. Parents scream and prove to be eternally ineffective. The fight
Hey,
involves
nice.
implausibly flammable vodka and Jeff's face.
Auto
movements.
cortex
The
to
best part
me.
of the story is when Jeff pulls off
Nice.
the bandages and finds his face is like shiny white leather and he no longer has eyelids. And then the story says, Jeff, said Louis' brother, it's not that bad. Not that bad, said Jeff.
Oh, interesting.
It's perfect. Naturally, he lets out a mad laugh at that point. Fast forward to the next chance Jeff gets to make use of a kitchen knife and the scene in the family bathroom. Jeff's mom walks in on him and she sees her son has carved a Glasgow smile into his face. He goes on a stabbing spree which ends with his brother. Sticking the blade into him, Jeff says his tagline, go to sleep. That's pretty much what he'll say to you just before he sticks the
Privilege
metal into your
maxing?
chest. Do stories get any better than that? Yeah, they get a lot better. Number 9, The Rake. So, Jeff the Killer was a simple feel-good story about a boy growing up and feeling frustrated. The Rake, however, is out of this world, akin to something you might see in the SCP Foundation. What's the Rake? Well,
This is like a
it's
compilation of all the stuff and also some
monster that's occasionally
creepypastas.
spotted and either causes a person to spoil their underwear or do quite the opposite. The other reaction is closer to how a person might greet a puppy dog. Documents that refer to this monstrous being date back to the 12th century. This is one document from 1880 translated from Spanish. I have experienced the greatest terror. I see his eyes when I close mine. They are hollow, black. They saw me and pierced me. His wet hand. I will not sleep. His voice. Unintelligible text. This is from 1691. He came to me in my sleep. From the foot of my bed, I felt a sensation. He took
Copperlung
everything.
is the
Must be
inability to
You shall
spell.
not return here again at the request of the Rake. Who is the Rake?
So if
kind of
someone
succubus
misspells
sneaking
something,
into
that's the
SCP?
curse of
That's for
Copperlung.
you to find out. The Rake is well
Have
written
black
and
eyes.
interesting. It also led to numerous
Well, not
theories
really.
regarding what it is.
People have really
Number
dark
8,
brown eyes, but
Nora
like,
Petrova. This one might not be the most horrific of stories.
like my
but the
eyes look
concept
kind of
is
black,
great.
but like,
Hats off to the writer that came up with it.
They're
Basically,
brown.
a young person is bored at home and decides to Google herself. You can only imagine how surprised she is to find a Wikipedia page dedicated to her. She's not famous, by the way, so that's why it's weird. That page contained all her personal information, her age, where she grew up, etc. It also talked about her love of ice skating. At first, she was like, "Dad, did you do that to impress me?" And he said, "No." She should have known that it's not all that easy to create a new Wikipedia page. Anyhow, she then creates her own account and tries to edit the page, but then finds that the page is blank except these words. Nora Petrova is a selfish little bitch who is going to get what she deserves. Excuse the language, don't shoot the messenger. She ends up losing a lot of friends for this and other things, and then after a series of snubs in school, she finds the page has changed to this. And Nora Petrova is a pathetic little orphan. 2 years
Damn.
pass and she doesn't get any more popular. She's so unpopular, in fact, that she moves to Switzerland. Still, you can't hide from the internet. She looked at her wiki page there and it said Nora Petrova died friendless and alone.
maybe.
It also stated her death date for the first time. We know all this because she wrote it in an email sent to one of her remaining friends. The last thing she says is that she's locked in a room in unfriendly Switzerland waiting for her death date to pass. You could call this an internet parable about cyberbullying and how being hyperconnected isn't always a great thing. Number 7. No End House. Who doesn't love a good haunted house story?
Or the
This
boring
one we think is the
creepypastas.
best on the Creepypasta Wiki. Basically, a heroin junkie convinces his buddy to try and win $500 by agreeing to walk every level of a haunted house. Okay, we know that sounds a lot like the very real McCamey Manor in the US, but people don't really get hurt.
Unfriendly
Not a lot of
Switzerland. I'm
people
taking
do.
that
What happens
personally.
next is part psychological horror, likely written by someone who likes to smoke a lot of weed, and part McCamey Manor style horror. It all gets very weird from there, with the rooms of the house sounding like the days of Sodom from the Marquis de Sade's seminal book on torture. Yes, sadistic, that word comes from the author's name. Suffice to say, the last room is the worst. We won't spoil it for you.
Can we
Number
just
6,
skip this
Robert
part
the
and go to the
Doll.
SCP
There's actually a doll called
682-bit?
Robert. It's real.
And I
The
think that'll be the
story's not
last thing for
entirely
today.
Robert the Doll
This
is a
section.
sailor with an possibly be more limitably be weren't so horrified that you might think about running for your life. But deep, what could be scarier than losing your mind? Have you ever been paranoid before? Have you ever thought everyone was out to get you? Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. It's not the knowing that's scary.
Basic but
Just
classic.
because
Yeah,
they're
but I don't know
paranoid
anything about
doesn't
him.
mean they're not
Other than he's like a
after you.
crocodile
That's
that
how
can't be
this tale
killed.
goes. It's about a young man that lives alone and is afraid to go out in the outside world. He has contact with people, but not so often, and only in the form of electronic communications. His isolation begins to bother him. The phone rings and it's a wrong number, but is it? Outside, it's dark and gray and foreboding, which kind of mirrors what it's like inside his head. He tries to go outside, but never seems to make it any further than the hallway. Whenever he looks through the window, all he sees are dark clouds and rain.
Let's see if I
His
can't kill
tension
it
keeps building, making
from
the
my
story
double
one of the
barrel.
best creepypasta noir tales.
Let's
We
see
won't
how
spoil
can't
for you,
kill it
but what
can't
we'll
be
tell
from
you
my
is that
double
this man's
barrel.
diary starts to sound very, very weird.
Can't
Number
kill
2,
it can't
Slender
be.
Man. This faceless
What?
ghoul is known as the Slender Man, and it hunts the young folks that are obsessed with it. It has long arms and is seen wearing a smart suit, And if you get too near this thing, what'll likely happen is you'll end up looking like someone has jammed pencils in your ears and thrown boiling water over you. Be careful, because one day you might see it slip by the window looking like a shadow, but with the strength to kill.
How did bro come back from a black hole? He's just a crocodile.
12-year-old girls from Wisconsin were playing hide and seek with a third girl. They lured the girl into a wood, whereupon they stabbed her 19 times. She survived, but only just. Just before the attack, one of the girls said to the victim, "Don't be afraid, I'm only a little kitty cat." They then proceeded to stab her in the arms, legs, stomach, liver, and pancreas. The victim shouted out through the pain, "I hate you, I trusted you." When the cops
Dude, right? Oh, the Slender Man game was so good. I was so obsessed with it when I was like 12. Like, it came out, all the YouTubers started playing it. Dude, it was so cool.
That didn't happen.
Like what, 2012, 2011? Something like that? Yeah.
First degree and sent to a juvenile detention
So much fun.
That's a testament to the hold this story has on some people. And that's why it's number 2.
Maybe I'll play them again. Well, not again. Maybe I'll play them.
Our favorite creepy
Is it the original? There's a bunch of like
many stories on the wiki,
like custom maps and stuff. I remember watching people play.
Fuck! But it's convincing enough. As the story goes, the Soviets were covertly experimenting on people back in the 1940s.
Wait. Oh, the Rush. Oh, I remember this one.
Which superpower back then wasn't doing terrible things in the name of science and war? This experiment was simple enough. Soldiers in the field needed to stay awake for longer periods of time. So the Soviets were testing a kind of stimulation gas that was sprayed into a containment chamber. The test subjects were prisoners who were falsely promised that they'd be let go if they completed the 30-day experiment. What happens next is nothing short of horrendous. In short, screaming leads to self-harm. Self-harm leads to test subjects tearing out their own organs. That leads to test subjects engorging themselves on said organs. It's pretty disgusting and brilliant, and it gets crazier. Did it really happen? In all your time working for the Foundation, you never thought this day would come. Panic hits you in an instant. If you weren't so horrified, then you might think about running for your life. But deep down you know that this would be futile. You'd hoped, prayed even, that you never
yeah, it said that earlier.
Words yelled over your walkie-talkie. SCP-682 has breached containment. Of course, everyone working for the Foundation knows what SCP-682 is. The hard-to-destroy reptile, known for being fiercely aggressive, highly adaptive to all forms of damage, and coldly intelligent. You look down at the handgun in your shaking hand, your palm hot and clammy around the grip. It might as well be a super soaker. You already know that conventional weapons won't even pierce SCP-682's skin. It's just too powerful. A voice in the back of your head is reminding you that everything the Foundation has ever hurled at this enormous...
The fuck? How is that racist? Huh? SCP-2316? What? Huh? So, do we get a white lab coat after this? I feel like we're qualified. What? I'm resurrected. Yeah, I think we're qualified. I think we can take down all these SCPs after this, honestly.
Vicious creature.
These scientists, they don't know what they're doing. I think me and you, honestly, we'd rule this joint.
Has already failed to do anything but temporarily slow it down. Even the most complex methods of destruction haven't been enough to put SCP-682 down permanently, only causing massive physical damage. But even that's not enough to stop its relentless nature. You realize your options couldn't possibly be more limited. Attempting to fight the hard-to-destroy reptile would only spell a grisly death for you. But of course, if you were to run, the Foundation would never forgive you for abandoning your post. You can't kill the beast, so your only hope is to find some way to get it back.
Site director Ishan Jolly.
Now, you would be forgiven for first thinking that as a reptile, SCP-682 would be susceptible to extremes in temperatures. Maybe some method of creating searing heat or freezing cold might stand a chance of beating it. Even
have they tried seducing it right? Have they tried using the Riz? M920 came there, right?
Onto SCP-682, hoping to freeze the beast solid. A plan that worked. For 10 minutes, the reptile started generating massive amounts of heat, fully thawing its frozen body and continuing to increase its body temperature until the walls of its containment chamber started melting. You could try to recreate this, of course, but even if you could freeze the reptile, you'd only buy yourself 10 minutes, followed by a very angry SCP-682 letting off enough heat to potentially burn down the entire facility around you. So if freezing won't work, what about heating it up? A different test exposed the beast to extreme heat, but this also yielded similar results. Heating a chamber containing 682 to a high Kelvin, researchers witnessed the reptile form a shell of solid helium in order to protect itself. With fear still coursing through you, you begrudgingly accept that 682 could easily shrug off any method you alone could employ to try to recapture it. Any traditional weapon you could get your hands on would be little more than a pea shooter against 682. So what else could you possibly use to get the monster back into its cage? Then it hits you. Your gun might be useless, but there's an arsenal of other weapons at your disposal that could maybe—
Which one was 106? Was that the old man?
give you enough
If
of an
so,
edge
yeah,
against the
I get that.
creature. What is this wonderful weapon? One of the other SCPs. With a threat as big and ruthless and adaptable as SCP-682, perhaps trying to fight fire with fire isn't your best option. Given the reptile's regenerative capabilities and innate ability to adapt to any form of damage, it makes sense that the hard-to-destroy reptile has both the nickname and the reputation it does. Unleashing another powerful SCP in the hopes that it'll cause enough damage to the reptile that it'll retreat back to its containment unit, or at least render it weak enough for Foundation security to restrain and recapture it, seems like a pipe dream. Maybe rather than deal damage to SCP-682, a better strategy would be trying to find some way of subduing the beast, slowing it down, or maybe even making it susceptible to commands. That thought reminds you of SCP-061 and the effect it had on 682, and for a moment gives you hope that you might be able to win against the hard-to-destroy reptile. 061 is a music program. Copies of its source code are found on 4 separate CD-ROMs located in 4 different lockers. That certainly works in your favor. If one was to break, you'd still have 3 spares. The primary function of 061 is to control brain functions by tricking a subject's brain into a sleep state, preventing any and all thoughts, leaving the body suggestible enough to follow commands. When 682 was exposed to the 061 program, the creature entered the usual state of relaxation that other subjects experienced, and even responded to basic commands like lie down and roll onto your back after a brief period of unresponsiveness. Although its movements were sluggish, almost reluctant, 682 did, for a brief moment, respond positively to the commands it was given. Unfortunately, after undergoing what appeared to be some form of seizure, SCP-682 rejected any further instructions and emitted a high-pitched screeching noise, causing nearby Foundation research staff to suffer the relaxed state one experiences after exposure to SCP-061. These personnel were consumed by the reptile shortly after, and it remains unknown how the creature integrated the SCP-061 program into its biology. Assuming you found some way to utilize the SCP-061 program, which would likely violate the program's own containment procedures, then the chances of it being effective against SCP-682 are slim. Sure, you might get a few short moments of obedience out of the creature, but you would not be able to subdue it long enough to convince the reptile
I like Bigfoot in the background
to
there.
vat of acid it's normally contained in. Perhaps introducing an SCP that 682 has at least behaved passively around might be better. Then you remember the experiment with SCP-053,
Which one's that?
a strange little girl who has a profound effect on those who come into close contact with her. Any who touch 053 or spend in excess of 10 minutes around her are filled with a violent anger and an overwhelming compulsion to murder anyone nearby. While normally it would seem cruel to offer up what looks like a 3-year-old child to a hateful, vicious reptile, you have no reservations about doing so with SCP-053. Luckily, she can regenerate, and any who try to kill her suffer a massive instantaneous heart attack. Undoubtedly a perfect defense mechanism when faced with a creature that normally attacks anything in its path. When first introduced to SCP-682, the little girl was understandably afraid of the creature, although the reptile did not devour the girl as it had done when presented
interesting.
with ordinary human children. Instead, 682 lowered its head and invited 053 to come pat it. As she did, the creature exhaled through its nostrils, causing the girl to clap her hands in excitement and hug the creature by the head. For the remainder of the experiment, 682 remained docile as 053 brought toys and other items to the reptile, and even made drawings with crayons on the creature's carapace. To this day, the encounter is one of the only instances where 682, who usually despises all forms of life, has not been aggressive toward another living creature. Now, that sounds like a viable solution, right? Calm down the reptile with the little girl,
Right.
and while it's not looking, figure
Why
out
don't they
a
just
way
stay
to
there
recapture it.
together
Sounds
forever?
easy enough.
Like, just keep them in the
assuming you
same
get
containment area.
SCP-053 from her containment unit to the reptile without succumbing to the murderous rage she infects people with, there's still the problem of what happens if you attempt to separate her from her reptile friend. During the original test, the Foundation staff who were supposed to contain the two SCPs were immediately torn apart by 682. This means even if you can get them together and pacify the reptile, you might still struggle to get it back to containment, as any attempt to capture the creature in a docile state would likely cost you your head, and probably a few limbs too. Plus, you can't rule out SCP-682 figuring out your plan to distract it using SCP-053. After all, the hard-to-destroy reptile is fiercely intelligent, and there's nothing stopping it from seeing through your plans and possibly even turning on SCP-053 in the process. And as much as you'd like to think it possible the heart attack 682 would suffer if it attempted to kill 053 would likely have little to no effect on the reptile. If all else fails, there might just be one SCP that could possibly slow 682 down long enough to get the reptile back into its acid bath cell. SCP-162, another SCP that the Foundation previously used in an experiment designed to neutralize 682 permanently. While unsuccessful, 162 did manage to inflict severe bodily damage to the hard-to-destroy reptile, which might just be what you need to buy enough time to recapture the beast. 162 is a 7-foot-tall ball, a seething mass of sharp implements, ranging from fishing hooks and line to scissors and needles. Anyone in the vicinity of SCP-162 will find themselves drawn
how
toward the
to
razor-sharp mass, reaching
beat
their
a
hands out
lizard
to
that's,
compel
like,
to
immortal.
touch it. The longer someone's around SCP-162, the
Just
more they
my
feel
tool
themselves
shed.
drawn to it. And when they touch it, they find hooks being embedded into their flesh of their hands, ensnaring and pulling them closer to cut them to ribbons. Previously, when these two SCPs have interacted, 162 dealt massive physical damage to 682, which, while not enough to kill it, could slow it down. During the experiment, SCP-682 became agitated in the presence of SCP-162, thrashing about and hurling profanities at the nearby Foundation staff. The reptile's lower body, head, and left forelimb quickly became entangled by the sharp mass, the creature writhing and letting out cries of pain. SCP-162 refused to release its grip on the reptile, and when the lizard attempted to detach itself from the ball of bladed implements, its lower jaw and left hind limb were wrenched clean of its body. Naturally, this angered 682 enough to breach containment, using SCP-162 to cause the deaths of 11 Foundation staff and a further 86 injuries. You have to be feeling pretty brave to unleash SCP-162 on the hard-to-destroy reptile, and of course brave isn't what you're feeling. You're afraid, and you hardly stand a chance at killing 682 with another SCP, let alone recontaining it. Then again, you never know, you might get lucky. Maybe 162 will entangle 682, ripping its limbs from its body and slicing its flesh into ribbons. Sure, the reptile will regenerate and reconstitute itself, but if luck is on your side, you might be able to just contain the beast before it was fully healed. Or you might just make it angrier and thus make the entire situation worse. Ultimately, as you already know, your options are more limited than they have ever been. Run for cover, hide while your fellow Foundation personnel are slaughtered, or free one of the other SCPs and let it deal some damage to the hard-to-destroy reptile while hoping for the best. Whatever you're gonna do, you better decide fast. Heavy crocodilian footsteps are drawing closer around the corner, and if you don't act fast and do something, then it's a guarantee that SCP-682 most certainly will. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, when Struck was describing it earlier, they just said somehow he was captured. Yeah. Who knows? Honestly, who knows? But I am tired. It's like 11:30. So, I will call it here. But it has been lovely hanging out with all you guys. I appreciate you all very, very much. But yes, okay. So, thank you guys for hanging out. See you all later. Love you all very much, and goodbye. Nice, Cooper. Very, very nice.